basically almost like on steroids at this point, right? It's just interesting how the messaging in the campaign that were used over and over again, created support to create the momentum to create winning the election. And literally, he's been in office over, I guess it's now coming closer to a year and a half, but he's still kind of on the front nine of the 2.0 term. But how it's just like overnight, it appears it's like he just kind of is reinventing himself. So that's kind of how I see it. It's almost like unexpected, and here we are. We find ourselves with the current state of affairs with Iran, the Strait, gas prices, the economy, what Daryl was talking about with risk to the U.S. dollar. I know Jamie Dimon was talking about today about expected, increased likelihood of recession, things like that. So that is our reality at the moment. Like it or leave it, this is what it is.
It's. I mean, Daryl, do you think Trump has the IQ or the cognitive?
Before you even finish that sentence, no.
Yeah. So I mean, but he's constitutionally, he's the guy in office. So what are we going to do? I mean, I think these prospects aren't good, right? I mean,
the only thing we really can do is brace for impact, right? Most of this tends to be cyclical anyway, right? So, but brace for pain. There's some pain coming. And maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe that's what's needed in a way. There's this like phrase, strong parents make kids who make strong kids because they have to do more, who will then make weak kids. And I think we have, as a society, maybe even as a culture, we've gotten to the place where U.S. hegemony was so implicit that all we really had to do as Americans was get up in the morning. We get our passport, we go to London. Are you an American? Great. We go to Japan. Are you an American? Great. We love America. And if you see, I think it was France that just gave their fighter jet contracts to Saab. So they are actually, Europe is going to decouple itself from the American defense system. That's going to affect Lockheed Martin. That's potentially going to affect Boeing. That's going to affect all these guys who make these things. Europe is saying that the United States is no longer a trusted ally. And I'm telling you, man, if I were reading like a Tom Clancy novel, I would think this is all Putin. I would think this is all by design, in a sense. Because I don't think he has anything to lose. If you look at the reports about his hands and his ankles and all these other things, I just don't think he has anything left to lose.
Well, see, that's a very polarized way of looking at things because as a former U.S. Army intelligence officer, I spent many months studying Russian weapon systems. And it was then when I came to the conclusion that the U.S. and Russia have to be the world's largest manufacturer of all these weapon systems. And so all I'm trying to say is, when I went to the VA hospital today to try to meet with my psychiatrist, there were so many old, dead, dying people full of cancers on wheelies, go-arounds for, these electronic. What I'm trying to say is the world is transforming and everyone is in a state of morbidity, whether you like it or not, including, all these Clubhouse users. It will eventually all completely disappear. But what worries me most is that the whole baby boomer generation, there's like an insecurity or an inferiority complex or something psychologically in the herd construct of the baby boomers that makes me worried that like they will plunge us into a World War III, and that the name baby boomer is not because of the blackouts and all the fucking in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. or before that, it was a name designated to rein in the nuclear apocalypse, a boom world. And see, Daryl, that's why I say you bring up Putin. You're like, Putin is secretly the reverse engineered constructor of all of this. And my answer to that is, well, then the left side of your brain says, and Donald Trump. So it's like this polarization between Trump and Putin, which is actually just an illusion. Like that's what you think the paradigm is. But the truth is, Donald Trump is like a very emotional man, or he's not, or he just doesn't care anymore. And he's like, okay, I already have 3 kids, everything is secure. I'm just trying to say that there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe, and it wouldn't surprise me if Donald Trump tries to become Julius Caesar or the other famous guy, not Augustus.
Kitover, can I ask you
Who conquered the world?
I forgot, what state are you in?
I'm in Illinois.
I think you're in the Midwest. Are you like in Illinois or something like
He's
this?
a Chicago guy.
Okay. So, do you remember the Russian spy scandal in New York City where they busted those like 10 Russian? It was called Operation Illegals. Do you remember that? And Anna Chapman, the redhead, she was on the cover of all the papers because she was running a honeypot. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember
that
Anna
Russian
Chapman.
spy scandal in 2010?
Party Box Cole. Welcome to the room, Party Box Cole. Daryl, yes, what about it?
So, Anna Chapman was dating my buddy Bill Staniford when the feds arrested her, right? Bill Staniford, you can actually look at my friends list. If you go all the way down to the beginning when I first joined this, you'll see Bill Staniford is in my friends list. He's a really good friend of mine. He's actually former military intelligence. He was a cryptologist. But it was discovered that going back to the 70s, the Russians had infiltrated the New York City real estate market, and what they were doing is they were laundering arms sales money by buying buildings in New York, right? They would come into the city and buy a building in cash. Sometimes they would come in like with gold bullion. And when Anna and the rest of the illegals got caught, and they did that really big spy exchange where they exchanged 10 Americans that the Russians had caught, and we gave them 10 Russians and blah, 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 and they did that big exchange. What came out of that was that they had been, Scott, is this recorded? This room?
No.
Okay.
As well.
What came out of that is that, the KGB or the SRV, whatever you want it to, whichever one you want to call it, they had heavily infiltrated.
If you're concerned, there is two animals in the room and also John Kitover, so it's probably being recorded.
Oh, I'll shut up then. That's all I want to say. Just look at the all you have to do is Google Anna Chapman, Russian spies, New York City real estate. It was it was the biggest spying scandal since the Cold War. And it was proven that going back to the 70s, the Russians had infiltrated the New York City real estate market, and they were using the money from illegal arms sales to buy real estate and work with developers in New York City. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, the Russians are into all kinds of shit. I imagine it's probably like a tributary system.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I was saying that, they uncovered billions in Medicare fraud in these hospices in Los Angeles that were Russian mob attached, I suppose. So I would assume that in Russia, like the Russian mob pays like a tributary system, possibly to like corrupt politicians. But the Russian mafia is international in scope, and I'm sure that just in the same way like the CIA worked with the Italian mafia, the KGB and Russian authorities and government possibly utilize you know, Russian mafia to conduct operations. It's I don't know.
And to don't forget to launder money.
Right. I mean, money laundering is tax evasion, or to take illegally gained proceeds and then wash them into taxable proceeds to put them in a bank. And so, I don't know. At 43, I'm just like shocked that reality is like this. You know, that the war in Ukraine, 2,000 people die every week. In America, we abort 3,000 babies a day. Like, we just live in this like mass industrial complex slaughterhouse, which is global in scope, has never slowed down from the 60s. It's only accelerating. And we have like a baby boomer generation population, which is disappearing. The greatest Americans who stormed the beaches of Normandy are gone. So it's like, if we look at, that's why Scott, when he brings up culture, to me, the culture clash is actually probably always the most interesting content. Like if you go to Chillism right now and you listen to how absolutely crazy people are, meaning that like their daily emotional well-being rests on the composure of a clubhouse room. Like that's basically fallen society. Like no individual personal responsibility. Nobody reads books. Nobody's interested in therapy or meditation or the arts. They're interested in like force projecting their political paradigm and screaming at people and shaming people to make themselves feel better about themselves. It's like the most. It's like being in a. It's like see, a psych ward is actually a very composed and calm and somewhat secure place to be. But the real world is the terror of reality. Like, I mean, I'm just saying that the murder rates in Chicago, all these numbers, you know, like they cleaned up Washington D.C., but they didn't clean up Chicago. I mean, Chicago is just a disaster war zone, and every major city is like this. Seattle with the homeless populations. I mean, you know, like 2 out of 10 Amazon deliveries are snatched. 1 out of 10 FedEx deliveries are snatched. It's just like we just live in a society, a broken, fallen society. And Scott earlier said that he thinks it's all going to go fascist, whether it's left or right. It doesn't matter. And I would just say that we are already fascist. We have to be at this point, and it's only going to increase as the national debt and deficits increase. Like there will have to be. If there are politically strong people, like I don't know, it's just anyways. I'm just disappointed. I just wish society wasn't so toxic, homicidal, and like pathetically unintellectual. Because all this DEI stuff and white people bad, racist, etc., is so ignorant and just shows that like the political leaders are just ignorant people. Because if they wanted to actually entertain the populace with more intelligent content, they could. But instead, they just publicly shame and humiliate all of us with their lack of intelligence and vision. It's truly pathetic. Like, they need to go read a book by Martin Luther King or something. Like, they're so ignorant. It's unbelievable.
And yet we still can't get the Epstein files. We're told nothing to see here, and it appears that, you know, there might be someone who's actually in the files. There are people who are in the files that are serving in our government.
Yeah, like Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is all over the Epstein files. Bill Clinton is all over. Bill Gates, all over. Bill Gates issued public apologies. Bill Clinton denied it all. And, you know, all of this was just, I mean, there's a lot that you have to like try to figure out on your own or read between the lines, the international espionage stuff. But it's pretty much clear and 100% that Epstein is a CIA employee, asset, etc., consultant. And if you watch the Epstein and Fatty Disgusting, you know, what's his face, that interview with what's that piece of shit? Who did the border wall scam? Steve Bannon. If you watch that, did anybody here really watch the whole thing and listen to it? Because it's fucking amazing. Like he is basically a libertarian, and he's describing the banking system.
Steve Bannon, to me, is the most interesting person on the right. I mean, I think that guy, he reads French novels. He's actually an interesting guy who I have some. I mean, there's a loathing I have for him, but also a sneaking admiration. Which,
well, he's the devil himself. At the end,
I got the replays off.
At the end of the interview, he calls Jeffrey Epstein. He says, "Are you the devil?" He goes, "Why would you say that to me? Why would you say that to me?" And that's Steve Bannon's projection onto Epstein. That's the interesting piece about the whole thing. Bannon is evil. He is a devilish person. And when you listen to the Epstein response, Epstein is like this little mousy kind of like, sweet nitwit. But Bannon is truly the demonic force. I mean, you could say Epstein is also demonic and evil, but anyways, that interview was so interesting because if you're just like an ignorant person and you can't understand reality and how things are the way they are, if you just watch that Epstein basically explain his version of reality, you're like, you know what? He convinced me.
So let's cover David G. David G. Meanwhile on stage. Where are you at with reality right now? Is Trump a lame duck? What do you think about Epstein? What do you think about the country? David G., you're coming to us from Los Angeles. Tell us where your barometer is for the state of reality.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to watch, to sit back, wake up, and see all these moves this president's trying to make, and then all the articles that are surrounding him with regard to the grift and the money being made at the expense of us and his kids making millions. And
you bring up the kids. We heard on this app. We heard on this app, right, for years about Hunter Biden, who I think made maybe $2 million, right? Doing nothing illegal, just using influence. Compare this to the Trump kids. I mean, where is the? I mean, is the hypocrisy, David? I mean, is there a metric for this level of hypocrisy or no?
I mean, it's a broken playbook. I think it'll be studied for years, for decades. I mean, those that thought that they were, I mean, all my friends that are on the right, some of them anyway, a few of them say, hey, it's no different than Democrats when they're in power. Sometimes Marshall makes these refrains in Gary's room, but this is a whole nother level of money being made off presidency. Starting from the first presidency, which was first term with Jared Kushner, Reagan made $2 billion out of the Saudi wealth fund. And the Saudi wealth fund advisors that advise MBS, that run the damn thing, didn't see any viable economic or reason to give them the money. It was what's the money going to be used for? So imagine you're running a bank, like you're a bank guy, right? And your underwriters, and they come to you and they say, hey, we need money from the vaults. And they go, what for? It's like imagine giving $2 billion or $2 million, whatever the case may be, of your bank's money, and not having a real legitimate reason. Well, this is the level that we're at right now. Bitcoin's been leveraged in a way I've never seen before. So
David, the lawyers. David, the lawyer from the Paramount Skydance deals, they got like $63 million in 3 days of work.
There you go. I mean, those are the bottom feeders, right? Those are the guys. Those are the line items on the billing. Yeah, I mean, look.
So David, let me ask you this: you're a dream candidate. Like, if we could reboot the system, let's say in 2028 we get someone in the White House that looks really different and tries to write the ship. Who's your dream candidate? Who would you support? Who would you go campaign for? Who would you write letters for? I mean, I think
We're talking about anybody out there that
your wish list. If you could see somebody,
oh,
um,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say on parole, um, on the Republican side, the guy's dying of cancer, but Ben Sass, seemed very measured and principled.
yeah, yeah, Sass, incredible.
Yeah, and so
PhD in history too.
yeah, Midwest guy, seeing the government, he hearkened and he drew from opinion.
But that's not your guy. You're a Democrat, so.
No, I know, but I'm saying if a Republican might win at some point, that's who I would like to see in the chair as a Republican. As a Democrat, I could say, there's aspects of Gavin Newsom that I like, although I'm seeing a trend in the establishment candidates. We talked about Bernie Sanders. I think there's some policies there. I'm not a socialist, but I think that he can bring, a fair and balanced approach to the economy and help, right the ship a little bit. I think along the lines of a Roosevelt Democrat who saw the need to bring money back into the middle class. I think the middle class has just been hollowed out. So any candidate that can speak to and then of course, how do you tame this AI monster that is coming for everybody's jobs, which we've talked about that a little bit. You and I are not even near retirement age. I don't know about Howard, but we still got working years in front of us, and we have a couple generations behind us that are also fighting for the same type of work that's going to be left over after the AI revolution continues to disrupt. So I think a politician, the next president's got some serious technology and innovation issues to deal with. I think the tech companies are going to continue to try to.
David, let me ask you this, David. So a lot of my friends, I'm a Philadelphia guy. I'm just interested. You live in California, right? A lot of my conservative friends think California is a disaster. I've spent time there over the past few years. I thought it was lovely. I mean, I think Newsom. I mean, do you think Newsom would be the skullduggery would be like around his? It's California, or is California a model for the country? It's the 5th largest economy in the world. I mean, should we be looking aspirationally to be more like your state?
Well, I think aspirationally, there's no question our legacy is the state was built around going west and finding your fortune, chasing your dreams. When Hollywood was built, that great industry was a beacon to the whole world about what America was about, real or imagined or otherwise. And it drove people here. And of course, our fantastic weather, topography, landscape, parks. I mean, we have everything here. When you have a lot to offer, at some point, you're going to be overwhelmed by the people that want to live here. Prices have been driven up. There's no more real estate to really develop. Prices through the roof, wages are stagnant, so you've got this imbalance in economy with regard to income, to expenditure, to housing, real issues that my politicians and my elected officials aren't able to really solve. And then, of course, we have a huge swath of the unhoused and homeless that are everywhere. And there's no solutions for that. Crime has gotten a lot more rampant. The wealthy in this state, if you've ever driven Los Angeles, you can actually go out, drive into these neighborhoods where there's multi-million-dollar homes and walk on their grass, go knock on their door and try to talk to somebody. I mean, it's just, that's how wide open this place is. And then, so not going too far, I think there's issues that we don't know how to handle because the bureaucracy of state, local, and federal just aren't equipped to be nimble enough to handle some of the big issues that we're facing here. And so we're a model, but we're not a model. I don't think we're a model anymore like we used to be. I think there's some big picture issues that we're not able to fix. Our taxation's high. You've got these billionaires that we've helped mint in Silicon Valley that are saying, hey man, don't come after my money. And now they want to leave the state. Guys like Larry.
David, it's interesting because I think on this app, right, I think you tend to be a line of the left. But when I'm asking you about your own state, you sound a little bit like a conservative.
No. I think what I'm trying to say is that the Democrats haven't solved a lot of the problems here. Okay, they're the ones in power right now. The people that I vote for, I voted for.
Seen that verified financial ties have people. And I said, I'm not commenting about
COVID,
600 people.
Was a massive
Don't let me say that places that are, my husband was
as others.
support of elections. That is
In a lot of ways,
that
we
is a
haven't rebounded from that.
Yeah. But I just checked this. It's interesting, and I know definitely there's challenges that you're pointing out, David. But California's overtaken Japan. It's now the world's 4th largest economy. So with all those problems, it continues to grow, and it's now number 4.
Howard, they have $50 billion in Medicare fraud, and they only take in $50 billion a year in taxes. How the fuck is this system running? It's all running on fraud, Howard. We have, in my opinion, we have to shut the whole fucking system down with Medicare, Medicaid, and re-platform it on Palantir or something new and do pay as you go. First in, first out type of economics. This type of annual budgeting shit is bankrupting the country, and $200 billion a year is going to fraud. It's insane. Criminal fraud.
America's been insolvent since 2007, 2008. This is kind of like known, but no one outside of kind of like Wall Street and economists talk about this.
Hey, I want to go to my friend Philip Denver real quick. Philip Denver, an evangelical Christian, a great guy. Philip, is Trump a lame duck? How are you? Where does your own theology sort of lead you to think about the prospects of the country?
Oh, my own theology? Oh yeah, we're broken individuals, and we make people like Biden and Trump into messiahs, and they're never going to help us at all. And, I mean, as long as we keep pushing all this trust in politicians that are going to solve things, or somehow the other side's the most evil thing in the world, then we're going to keep going down this path. I don't know what the turnaround is. I didn't grow up in the 60s and 70s, but, if you grew up in the 60s, the country was pretty in turmoil as well. And I mean, it definitely feels like we're going the wrong direction, but we've self-corrected before, so who knows?
A lot of brevity from Philip Denver. Any other thoughts, Philip? I give you another 60 seconds.
Yeah, David, you're a little triggered.
Triggered by what?
That you think you think it's the end of the world.
I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not what I said. It's not how I'm saying. I'm seeing. Let me just give you an example, right? I'm only talking just from my own anecdotal, my backyard. I live near Santa Monica, West Venice Beach, very iconic beachside Tony cities, and businesses are shuttering. Established restaurants that have been here for years can't make it now, shuttering. We had a famous walking street called 3rd Street Promenade. 30% of the businesses in there are vacant. It's actually a dead zone now. It's a dead zone. So, and we're talking about multi-million-dollar homes that surround these business districts. And, something's broken here, right? I just saw the cops in Santa Monica, and this is all anecdotal. 3 or 4 cop cars, lights on, roughing up some homeless guy, and these cops are nervous because the city of Santa Monica is running out of money. They've been sued. They've had lawsuits over sexual harassment, sexual abuse by one of their officers. And so they're hemorrhaging cash. And these cops jobs. They want to get their pensions. They want their pensions paid and everything. So when businesses shutter, there's tax revenue that's gone. And then, of course, the tourists don't want to come here. The tourists already don't want to come here because of Trump and our immigration policies and the climate that Trump's established for America today. So that's hurting.
How did Trump establish the climate in Santa Monica?
I'm saying Europeans don't want to bring their dollars here. They don't want to bring their dollars here. 14 million people come to Venice Beach every year. It's one of the most trafficked, famous beaches in the world. And I'm seeing it empty. I'm seeing vendors not doing the business they used to do. I'm saying, and I've talked to others that they're not, that the European dollars are not coming over here. And you know, you can look at you can just Google the tourism issues that the nation is facing, how down it is. And these are nationwide trends. So it's not just California, it's other parts of the country. Canadians aren't coming here anymore.
David, it was COVID-19 that destroyed Venice Beach. COVID-19 destroyed our fucking economy. You know, that sacrifice that we did to shut down with that experimental COVID-19 vaccine and boosters. Venice Beach was thriving and is, you know, one of the most amazing destinations on the planet. But COVID-19 is what 100% ghost town that fucking place.
Turned into a homeless encampment. It was a massive homeless encampment during COVID.
Is that
they got
Trump's
these
fault?
famous. No, I'm not. This was after Trump, right? This was after Trump. So
whose fault is that?
It's a fault of responding to a pandemic, and it's the fault of not having resources and places to put people. The city of LA basically said, we'd rather them out in the open, now we'd rather have them in these tents on these famous beaches than worrying about COVID being spread and whatnot. And so there was decisions made to just let it go rampant. And then everybody was coming here from all over the place. So if you had to be quarantined, right, you had to stay in your house, or you're living in a cold part of America. Well, coming here wasn't a bad place to show up because it's sunny. You can be outside, and I just saw tons of people come to the area that weren't even from here, like, not even 5, 6, 7 years ago, just showing up in license plate states from other parts of the country, setting up shops, setting up tents and everything. So, yeah, it was just a crazy free-for-all. I don't think you could pin it on any one administration or any one policy. It's just how people reacted to the situation.
But Howard, David, that was the allure.
Dave, if you could, let's say in 2028, Gavin Newsom is the Democratic nominee. He's your governor. Would you vote for him for president?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd vote for president. I mean, look, I like Biden. I thought Biden's an older, wiser, more experienced version of Newsom. If Biden had been Gavin Newsom in terms of age and vibrancy, he'd be running the show right now. He would be in the White House. Okay, but age caught up to him. So, yeah, I think he's part of that tradition of, the Roosevelt, take care of, have policies that are going to impact.
But David, what do we do about deficits? I mean, which I don't know. Like, and I'm not a fiscal conservative. But I mean, it's a reality, right? I mean, these things about spending. How do we get? And I don't think we need to have balanced budgets all the time, but we need a sort of budget that's probably in some sort of correlative relationship in a healthy way to GDP. How do we do that? And how do we talk the country into some level of fiscal responsibility? I'm not saying balanced budgets, but I'm saying how do we get spending under control?
You can start by not having Republican presidents.
There you go.
Oh, that line. It's always my favorite line. We can start by not having Republican presidents.
Well, you can look at the historical numbers. It's pretty clear.
If you look at
Yeah, I think what is absolutely clear is that when we have Democratic presidents and Republican Congresses, the deficit goes down. I mean, that's
Ding, 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 plus, 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 plus.
yeah. I mean, I think that is. I think, and part of that is Republicans. When there's a Republican president, it's military spending and tax cuts, and they blow up the deficit. When we have a Democratic president and a Republican Congress, spending usually does go down. I mean, Clinton balanced two budgets. Obama took. I think when Obama came in 2008.
It was during, it was, so it's Scott, if I can just jump in, historically speaking, by every metric by which we measure the economy, this goes back to the Depression. The economy does better when there's a Democrat in the White House and the Democrats control at least one chamber of Congress, right? And it's overwhelmingly.
It's not a fact, to be clear.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Yes, it is.
You can say it's a fact, but if you actually do the work on this, and you actually read economics, it's really not a fact.
Actually, my degree is in economics, so it actually is a fact.
Philip, if you have a degree in economics, then you got to know the art of just making opinions, Philip, and calling them facts. That's what economics is.
To look at how we measure the measurements of how we measure the economy. This has been argued ad nauseum. This has been argued ad nauseum, and the overwhelming belief is that because Democrats are willing to spend out. If you look at what Bill Clinton did, Bill Clinton raised taxes on the rich, and he also cut defense spending. So you can make your arguments, but until you write a white paper, I'm just gonna go with what
Or just
the general consensus is.
There's no general consensus unless you're a liberal. Nobody generally concises these things. You guys say facts are not facts. This is why people dislike people so much.
I mean, Bill Clinton also benefited from the innovations of the internet and the tech run up to 2002.
Yeah, pets.com and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, definitely.
No,
do you remember that website? That was huge.
I do. Yeah, I do. But I'm trying
Was
to
it Al Gore? Was it That's the Internet?
When the feds arrested her, right? Bill Stanford, you can actually.
There's something to
The internet was actually incubated in the University of California systems, and it was a military project before that. So the military, Howard, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I was just going to throw a lot in the fire here for the group, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dave.
David, would you?
Yeah. So the military.
David.
Clinton didn't get us into any wars either. He didn't get us any wars. He left with a budget surplus, and then George W. Somehow got us involved in the Iraq War and ran up those deficits.
David.
I mean, it's interesting how parties frame itself as being fiscal,
But again, I Q on this question.
Somalia, Haiti, and Iraq.
Okay, hold on a second.
This is Bill Clinton.
I don't have enough of an IQ on this question, but let me ask it anyways. So if deficits are such a significant issue, why is the stock market continuing to grow in the S&P?
Because of the deficits, Howard.
Because
They're connected.
There used to be a metric where you could look at the market and basically jobs, and if you looked at the chart, they were almost always in unison with each other. Now it's like they're completely separate. So the
What?
state of
They're not separate. What are you talking about?
really doesn't have anything to do with jobs anymore.
I don't believe
No, but it has to do with corporate
That's what I was gonna say something similar to Scott. How do we get it? How do we not balance budgets? But to answer your question, don't we need to tell a better story? We need to tell a more accurate story. The economy is not the stock market. Dummy.
Yeah.
Right? The economy is something shining a light on what is the real economy.
Yeah, but Caleb, if you ask an economist to determine or define economics, it's like asking, what is God? It's this huge soup, and we all know it's just this admixture. The problem is, we keep spending on ridiculous programs. I mean, I think austerity, honestly, and a strong hand is the way to resolve the situation and prepare for the financial, situation, or we just keep going. Maybe we're not even greedy enough, but maybe we're just spending it all on stupid stuff, because really it's the global economy which is supporting our fraudulent Ponzi scheme. And so, if we're really smart, we would actually push it harder and rip off the rest of the world as much as possible and prepare for, like defeating them in a conflict, because, that would be one argument. You could say that's patriotically insane and immoral, but I would say what we're doing now is already immoral, and we're already getting ripped off by scammers and schemers to the tunes of probably 400 billion a year. So why let scammers defraud us of 400 billion a year? If we're the mafia and the mafia is getting ripped off and the mafia just keeps letting itself get ripped off, well then maybe they're kicking back to the top of the mafia, or they're unaware of this.
But if my 401k continues to go up and keep doing it, I don't care.
Exactly, that would be the reason to keep voting Democrat.
I would go to what Caleb said. I think because Caleb is on something here. I think we need a new national story. I don't know what it is, right? But Caleb, could you give us 2 minutes on if you could be the national rabbi and sort of give us a little political direction? How would you re-narrate the national story? What direction would you take us in?
Well, I'll just say I know nothing about economics, right? So I'm not equipped to tell that story. I'm coming right now from an event where the son of a rabbi named Israel Dresner, Cy Dresner, who they say was Martin Luther King's rabbi, right? He's in all the pictures. And this is I was at an event about restarting Black-Jewish relations. In a tenser moment in America between blacks and Jews, and in a post-October 7th reality, under the larger heading of why can't we talk to each other anymore? And that's when I think about my big social issue of the day. It's why can't we have conversations? And that's the story I'd like us to be writing together. The story of our shared conversation together.
So, Caleb, do you think this is about social trust, right? The Putnam stuff. If we could learn to converse. I mean, countries that have high social trust function incredibly well. Countries with low social trust function incredibly poorly. So, is what you're saying that, like, if we could build some fabric of conversation, we put some dividends in the social trust bank, and then maybe we'd actually be able to do some functional things together as a people?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, families don't even talk to each other, right? Kitchen table, dinner time conversations are happening far less. So obviously we can't talk to each other out on the street. Right? Like one theme I took away from this, and this is a reverend and this rabbi's kid who's doing this documentary about his dad and Martin Luther King. Check it out, by the way. If you don't know who Cy Dresner is, look him up. He was the most arrested rabbi in the civil rights movement. He was the only rabbi who was a board member of the SCLC. Anyway, very interesting guy. In any case, the whole takeaway, both of these guys, what they kept saying is like, be kind, ask people how they are, simple stuff, but powerful stuff. We don't do that. We stay angry. We stay with cortisol levels spiked, right? Like, this is crazy. We can talk to each other. We can connect. What do we connect on? There's a lot of sameness there. What did the guy say? The Reverend said, let's not major in the minors. I thought that's a great line. Let's not major in the minors.
I am. So I'm not going to lapse Christian guy, but when I was a minister, I was in a tradition where we had corporate prayers of confession every week. And that was really powerful. I mean, there was something powerful about the whole community sitting and humbly confessing our sin together. And then there was assurance of pardon, which was beautiful. You know, as a minister, I told people that I wasn't giving them absolution theologically. I was just assuring them that God's forgiveness was real. And I think if we had some of that, right? If we, in all of our traditions, if we had some, I think, kind of corporate, just, hey, you can get some grace and then give some grace. Do you think that would move us forward or not?
I don't know if that's the story. I think it used to be something like, and this was never true for everybody, but I think one way we told the story was like, in the end, there's the system, and the system will say that will work. In the end, right? But that's what's so scary now. That's what's being attacked is the systems. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Well, no, I brought this up in the room today, and I might have been all over the map a little bit now. I was trying to articulate it, but people fought the good fight, like the rabbi you mentioned, you know, with the civil rights movement, because it was the right thing to do, and everybody knew they had the morality on their side, and people were willing to die for that morality, because to not do so was to keep the status quo entrenched. And it had gone on far too long in this country to allow the inequities that were just, you know, second nature to everybody that was living at that time. You know, until you had guys like in the sports world, Jackie Robinson, and guys like Sinatra who forced hotels, who let Sammy Davis Jr. sing in and stay in. I mean, you had real trailblazers that took on the establishment. And, you know, now we act like, oh, well, all those sins have been remedied. And everybody's saying it's reversed now. Every white guy out there who lives in the deep south who's out of a job is blaming him a colored person, somebody from the other side of the tracks. And it's like, this is where we're at today. And the Supreme Court.
By the way, guys, first female on the stage. Let's give Meryl some
Meryl.
Meryl,
Job.
would you like a fresh five to tell us?
Hold on, I want to if I could just jump on something both Caleb and David were saying.
You know, take a minute and then we'll go to Meryl.
Yeah, because David, you actually had people who were willing, you know, to get punched in the face, right? And, you know, Caleb, like, people don't know, but I don't know if anyone remembers this movie about the killing of the civil rights kids. It was called Mississippi Burning, right? And they killed these.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe, right? So I'm good friends with Dick Gregory's son, Dr. Christian Gregory, and what people don't know, it's called the Summer of Freedom. It was actually Hugh Hefner who paid to have that swamp dredged, right? You know, Mississippi, they didn't want to pay for it. So Dick Gregory, who was actually the first African-American comedian to play at the Playboy Club, he went to Hugh Hefner and he said, hey, can you help me? And Hugh Hefner is the one who paid. People don't know this story. It's an amazing story, but I think it goes back to something what Caleb was saying. And David, you know, people were willing to go out and get bitten by dogs. Those Jewish kids that got shot.
What you're saying, Daryl, there was investment in a collective story.
Yes.
So, all right, let's go to Meryl. Meryl, first female on the stage, my dear friend. How are you? And would you like to comment on Trump and the country and just the state of how you're feeling about our collective union?
Well, I missed most of this conversation. I'm just coming in late. But you're talking about communicating with each other? Or personally, I think that we're not all sensitive to the same things. I know I come across very like a shrew sometimes on Clubhouse, but I'm pretty sensitive about a lot of things, and I find that the people that I certainly get along best with, we have that in common. We are sensitive. We our emotions. There's things that trigger us, and they don't seem to trigger other people. So you talked about, we're talking about the civil rights movement. Try to think about. Well, I think about the women that got involved and were killed. I think about. Yes, they're brave. They were brave, but they understood. They had more a different morality than we have today. I think that we are losing this. I think that Trump has done that to us, by the way. I think that we were a far more sensitive country when we understood that people hurt, or we understood what injustice is, or what we thought was injustice. And when we are strong about that, when we're not afraid to talk about it, I find that there are people that are having arrogance about them that I'm not real. I don't think I'm arrogant. I think I'm emotional. But I don't think I'm arrogant, and I do think that I listen, but I'm not. But as I said, I will read a story, or I'll see a picture, or I'll be listening to the news, and I might feel very strong about something, but I'm still willing to listen to other people. But I find that I just don't think we live in a sensitive world right now.
And Meryl,
Our own country.
I don't want to put you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you have a personal friendship with one of the most conservative people on Clubhouse, right? I mean, Steve Wine. I mean, you guys are friends.
We don't talk politics at all. Not at all. We talk about things that we're sensitive about each other, but not. We don't talk about. We talk about our families. We talk about things that we relate to. You know, what hurts? This hurts, or this is happening with our family, or there are some things that you have in common that are not necessarily dictated to by how you vote. They are much more. You dig deeper into who a person is. You know, there are some things about Steve that he will say, "Oh, I couldn't stand that about her," or "I don't like this about him. He's so different than I am here, or different than I am there." But then when you stop and talk with him, there's things that are in common, and I think that is important to be able to. But there are other people who I could never communicate with that way, our politics separate us, but we don't have that same respect for each other. I do respect.
Why do they separate you?
Pardon?
Why do the politics separate you?
Oh, for many reasons. Okay, I'm not a one issue voter. I am not. I don't want to be too controversial, but when I talk about Israel, I'm Jewish and I support Israel. Do I agree with every single thing that they do? Not for years. For years, I've been able to say, I support them. I raise money for them. I will give them money, but I will not. I'm also able to say this. I think this is wrong, or I can look at something. I think I don't want to get too controversial, but
Meryl, I think you should get a little more controversial. Like put the pedal in the metal. Come on.
Okay. When we talk about what's going on in the West Bank, or some people will say Bibi can do no wrong, absolutely no wrong. Well, I do disagree with him on some things, and when I see, if I see Jewish settlements that are violent, Palestinian Christians who have nothing to do with Hamas, they're not Hezbollah, they're not terrorists. they're just living there quietly, peacefully, and I disagree with, I don't defend every single thing that's done. When we had the vote on Israel, there were a number of Democrats who just voted, they will always give money for Israel to defend itself. But right now they're drawing the line and they're not going to give money to bulldoze everything. And they're more cautious about that. I agree with that. However, I get beat up by, you take somebody like, there's a couple people right in the Critical Thinking Forum who would beat me up. They would chew me up and spit me out for saying that, because he can do no wrong. And that's not true.
Meryl, do you think there's something too about like something tragic about a bullied people that becomes bullies? Right? I mean, that's. I think it's fair to say in Israel right now can flex their muscles, right? And
Job
it's
is buying him a colored person. Somebody from the other
of people that have been bullied.
job.
Probably being less than sensitive with their power. Is that fair to say, or am I overspeaking?
Absolutely. You know, the one thing that Jewish people do, and we do, I mean, it's very important. You know, we always say never forget what happened to the Jews with the Holocaust. And it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. But we can watch people now who they're not Hitler. They're not as violent or not Hitler, but you can see that people can be sane, but start to eventually do things just like you said. You start to become the bully, and you lose sight of the fact of where you came from. What were your roots? How did you start this? And I understand we can't always be beat up by terrorists. Absolutely not. But we also can't become terrorists. And when I once watched when the whole thing with Gaza was starting, and believe me, I have friends and family in Israel, and they're not all for Bibi, but they have to run to bomb shelters 16 times a day. But they sit and they can do the whole thing with Gaza. I see a picture of a man running, and he's got his 2-year-old child, and his child's feet aren't touching the ground. This man is running so fast to take his child somewhere. And I have an emotional reaction to that. Some people look and say, well, God damn it, they're terrorists. Look what they did to our kids. I'm not quite there yet. I sometimes see something right in front of my face. I'm looking at a picture, and I start to feel bad about that 2-year-old child. He's not yet become a terrorist. He's not yet not been influenced yet, but he will be. He's going to hate Jews just like he's going to, because of what he's experiencing right now. And so I worry about things like that. I just don't want us to be, I don't have the right words. I get so nervous.
Meryl, these kids are programmed.
You think that people have blind spots that they can't see things in, right?
That includes myself.
Okay.
That includes myself. I have blind spots, I suppose I do.
So what are your blind spots that you think that you could do a better job at actually, you don't actually have to say it, but what are the blind spots you could do a better
They're called blind spots for a reason, Philip. She can't even tell you about them because she doesn't even know about them.
No, I'll tell you. Okay, one of the things. I'm a smart ass. I sometimes don't diffuse something when I should. Okay, I will see something, or I'll be in chat, or I'll be somewhere, and somebody will write something, and instead of trying to diffuse it or trying to think it through before I answer, I will be snarky. I want to dig a little at that person. You don't always wake up somebody by poking them, and sometimes I poke. I think that's
a blind spot. A blind spot would be like the abilities of something you know that you're biased actually holds you up from being objective on a discussion.
Holds me up from being objective.
So
I don't like
Like not being able to take a Republican talking point and give it credit.
Oh,
say.
yes. I'll tell you what.
First of all, let's get rid of the word objective and let's just say fair, because I don't think anybody can be objective, right? But I think because we're all subjects, right? We all have emotions and eyes and ears, so everything is subjective. But we can try to be fair, right? So Meryl, how could you be more fair? I mean, do you think there are times when you could be fairer to the other side?
That's hard for me to think about because I am so rooted in how I feel right now. No, I think that I think I have what appears to be a bias. It can be called a bias, but I don't think I'm unfair. I think that I think what's unfair is if I were to say to somebody, if I were to blame everything on the other party, if I were to blame everything on, as I just said, Bibi, if I want to blame everything on Bibi, that's not fair. That's not fair. But I do think that I feel that I have come in contact with many people who I don't think are fair. I don't call somebody Hitler or a Nazi. I might say that I think I see the beginnings of something that happened many decades ago that can grow into something, but I don't listen anymore. When someone starts attacking me, I tend not to listen. So if that's a flaw, then that's one I have to admit to.
Okay, let's go to Howard. Howard, my man, how are you feeling about this room? And I mean, you're a Jew. How do you feel about Israel, Netanyahu, just the general state of what's going on?
No, I think, and Scott, I appreciate you clarify versus object, but yeah, I mean, I think Meryl did a good job just articulating kind of the paradox that's happening with what's going on right now, and stay with it.
See, Meryl.
All right, let's go.
Scott, can I say something real quick to Meryl? You know, Meryl, I gotta tell you, Donald Trump could be your source of enlightenment.
John Kitover, candidate for Congress and mayor.
And also Chicago Public School Board.
Hold on 1 moment. I have to tell you something, Mr. Kitover. I'm not always fair when it comes to you. Go ahead.
Oh, I just like to make a joke, but it's actually not a joke. It could be a reality thing for some people that Donald Trump could be your source of enlightenment, meaning that, like, if you are polarized with Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin, if you haven't come to like a spiritual or a metaphysical conclusion, you have to basically try to enlighten yourself like our founding fathers did, or transcend above your opinion or the way you feel. That type of creative intelligence or psychological intelligence can be applied to all other dynamics of your life. And Donald Trump, because he is that polarizing figure, you could just visualize Donald Trump in your mind's eye as an orange, man, and just do a Trump mantra and just say, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. It's a joke, Meryl, but it's not necessarily a joke, meaning that, your life is limited. Your time is basically broken down into 2.5 billion seconds throughout the course of your life. It's all content. So this app is, in a way, reverse engineering the universe to troll you, to gaslight you, and to make you basically to fuck up your life and make your life miserable, because this app is just toxic, communication for the most part. And like you said, if people attack me, I'm going to attack them back. Well, that's the problem, Meryl. The fact that your brain is just automated. It's fully automated. It's AI already in itself. Hello?
No, sir. No, sir. That's where I differ with you. No. See, you are describing me as somebody who's not smart. You are describing me as somebody who can't be objective, or somebody who can't. You'd have to understand a little bit about, we all were raised in some way. We all had different influences growing up. I had the best. And we were taught, my cousins, myself, we had a large family. large extended family, we were taught to listen. We were taught to be able to speak. We were taught to be able to defend what we think and how we feel. And I can't look at Donald Trump and have you tell me intellectually. Now you're trying to go psychologically. No, let's talk psychologically and intellectually. All right, you've picked the wrong person. Donald Trump. No, I'm sorry, Donald Trump. And we can do example after example after example. Whether we don't have, it's a morality issue. It is I find he doesn't respect our country. I respect our country. I respect our citizens.
So I understand what you're saying, but if you don't see a blind spot here, I would tell you, like, it's very obvious that you so despise the person that if he does anything good, it's gonna be
No.
to say he does.
Tell me what he does that's good. Tell me what he does that's good for our country. Tell me what a patriot he is. Tell me.
Absolutely, he supported Israel at a key moment of time and basically helped them defeat Iran, Israel, Lebanon, and all of Israel's enemies at this point, which has put us on a safer track in the Middle East probably for the first time.
Did I say I don't support Israel?
You asked me to tell you what he's done that's good.
I asked you, okay, and you think that that's one of the reasons I disapprove of him?
No, you
Is
said
that what you're saying?
You said tell me one thing that he's done that's good.
No, that you think I have a bias against him for. You're saying you are talking to me as if I can't pinpoint anything.
You didn't say that though.
I am a supporter.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
No, she said to me, name one thing you think he's done that's good.
In the context of the conversation, the entire conversation.
Sure, I'll give you another thing that he's done. I'll give you one thing that's nuanced. You'll hate this. He's basically shut the border down so we don't have illegal immigrants flooding into the country.
And what makes you think that I was against that? You've been in other conversations with me, haven't you?
That's a good move. Now, the place keeping these because the police are during the Matrix.
I think what he says, I agree with Phil. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I would say this. I think Trump is evolving into kind of Reagan light. I think he's spending a lot of money and cutting taxes and doing some neocon foreign policy, which all is fine. I mean, that's, it's not my politics, but I don't think it's necessarily extreme. I think what's interesting is he's evolved into someone that is the opposite of how he won. I mean, in 2016, Donald Trump won the presidency because people were just tired of all of the spending and all of the neocon adventures, and they wanted an America First kind of agenda. I think what he's evolved into is the thing he ran against, which might, and again, you can take that or leave it. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that's good or that's bad, but I mean, it is. I mean, he has lost any kind of center that he had.
Scott, you're discounting who he ran against.
I think it's. I mean, one second over. I think it's more complicated than. I think 2016 is very complicated, and the reason I say this is because I won't say her last name, but my good friend Lisa here in the city. She worked for him for 17 years. She was there that night, and when they told him he won, she'll tell you he said it was shit, right? Yeah. What the Dems did, there's sometimes you get beat and then sometimes you beat yourself, right? And I've gotten into like arguments about this, running Hillary Clinton was a mistake. Running Hillary Clinton and I have nothing against Hillary Clinton personally, but I acknowledge that her unlikable numbers were very high. I think the Clintons as a couple don't understand how the average person feels about them. And to add another layer to that, the issue with the Democratic Party, which is not the party of my mom was a nurse for 22 years. My dad was 17 years in the Army. I come from a blue-collar New York City family. They wouldn't recognize this Democratic Party. And I'm sorry, Meryl, you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, all right, I'm a Democrat, but every election I have voted for Republicans before, by the way. I look at the possibility of a Democrat losing. Right throughout the entire campaign, I will look at that, primaries and everything, and I look to and say, what Republican there can I accept? What Republican there, if he wins, I think will be okay. I don't just say, forget it, no Republicans. Donald Trump was somebody that my boss and I had discussions about before he ran first time. And I started to do research on him. He was not somebody that I would ever have chosen. But there were other Republicans I could have felt, okay, we're going to still be okay. I might not like all their policies, but there were about 2 or 3 that I thought we could be okay. I'll be okay with this. That's how when it comes to that, I don't say it's got to be a Democrat. God damn it, I hate all Republicans. It's not that at all.
I'm talking more about the DNC and the party structure, right? The DNC has this thing about electing kings, right? And they want to come together and they'll say, well, okay, Meryl, you have to wait because it's Scott's turn, right? It's this whole idea of a turn-based system, and they refuse. And again, I voted for Bloomberg. I voted for Giuliani once, but I was here on 9/11. I was down here on 9/11.
Obama broke through.
But that's right, Howard. Look at what he did. He said to the system, who they were trying to make it Hillary in 2008. It was quote unquote her turn, and I think the party. And I think this is the problem with the Democratic Party, that the party is so caught up in this idea of what do you call it, lineage, in a sense, right? That they refuse to accept that her unlikables, as smart as she is, no one really liked her, right? And as they're out of touch with people.
Do you think you should vote? Do you vote for somebody because you like them, or do you vote for somebody who maybe you can see the negatives, but you know they're smart and they're going to do the best they can do for you, for the country? I look at the Clintons. Remember now something. They got a bad rap right from the very beginning. Bill Clinton, yeah, he was too loose with his you know what, and when he was a governor. And
Floyd Weiler, Vince Foster.
Yes, all those the scandals. Which, by the way, when the Republicans went and got special counsel Ken Starr, Ken Starr didn't find the stuff that he thought he was going to find. He said he didn't really want to do the Lewinsky thing, but that was the only thing.
Ken Starr is in the Epstein files, communicating with Jeffrey Epstein via email, calling him, "Hey, babe, I can't wait to see you again." He's in the files. Ken Starr.
Ken Starr represented him. Ken Starr was on the legal team that represented him.
Are you excusing what Bill Clinton did? Like, are you excusing the sexual assault allegations and
Are you saying me? Are you asking me that?
Yeah.
No, I don't excuse it. However, he was impeached for it. And then the rest of that became for him and his wife.
Why? No, that's not true. That is not for him and his wife. The country still. This is the thing. It's not. You don't get to tell people that they're not allowed to feel a certain way. I'm not allowed to tell you that you can't feel a certain way about the shit that Donald Trump has done. Like, that is a terrible tactic if you use it both ways. At the end of the day, when Bill Clinton did not resign in that scandal and step up, he set a precedent for everybody else to never have to resign in a scandal of that magnitude.
Yeah, he was impeached.
And he
He set an example that nobody in the Republican Party is willing to do. He was
That's
impeached.
actually not true. There were 7 different senators that impeached that looked to vote for conviction of Donald Trump for 9/11. Wait, I'm sorry, January 12th or 11th.
January 6th.
January 6th. Sorry. So this idea that that's not true, that is absolutely not true. There has been people that have been good politicians. Look at Ben Staff. But if you're going to sit there and
No, I'm saying the sitting people in Congress did, and in the Senate, they did not impeach him. Who did? Who was willing to? Mitt Romney. You had Cheney.
Liz
You
Cheney,
did not.
you can go on and on and on.
Was he impeached? Was he impeached? Bill
Yeah, Donald Trump,
Clinton was impeached.
Donald Trump
And
has
that
been
is
impeached
because
twice.
and
Yeah,
Republicans.
so Donald Trump has been impeached twice, and Bill Clinton set the precedence that it's
Excuse me.
okay to lie and do horrible things in the office to be okay with it.
All right, I'm going to give you an example of Donald Trump. Okay, do you think Donald Trump really cares about police and police brutality? Do you
No.
think he cares about police?
No,
How do you feel about him with the pardons?
I think it's atrocious. I think it's setting precedents that Joe Biden said when he left office.
So we're, okay, now wait a minute, what about, okay?
No,
Compare
what
Joe
about-
Biden and
this is-
compare,
you-
you just mentioned Joe Biden.
All you are is
We pardoned Joe Biden's son of real crimes because he's the president's son, and in that permission structure, you're
He pardoned his son. He pardoned his son.
correct.
All right,
You're not
he
permitting
pardoned his
Joe
son.
Biden-
Now let's talk about that then. How much money did his son get? And how much money do Donald Trump get?
About $2 million, and
How much does Donald
Trump has made.
family get right
The
now?
conservative estimates are that Trump has increased his net worth this year by $2 billion.
2.2 billion. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. I mean
And this is,
yeah.
Scott, Marilyn, I'll let you have it, but this is the part that kind of gets me, right? It's like, it's all of this stuff is literally being done right in front of your face, right? You have oil shorts, right, done right in front of your face. What are you going to do about it, right? It's like, release the Epstein files. No, we're not going to. What are you going to do about it, right? It's the what do you call it when presidents are not the emoluments, right? You can't do this. You can't do this. Well, okay, well, hold on, Philip, I'm talking. I'll let you finish. It's like,
I gotta run.
what are you gonna do about it? It's this constant thing of, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Opinions be damned, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And that's the
well,
part.
Daryl.
Yeah.
I feel that long term, it isn't Trump himself because he's almost 80 years old, but it's ultimately going to be Eric, Donald Jr., Barron, Kushner. They're the ones that ultimately are going to possibly, potentially, somewhere down the road. Because when all this and you start getting the IRS involved, it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, well, think about it, right? They're talking about forced registration for selective service, right? There was even some talk, it happens every now and then about the draft, right? But Barron Trump is of fighting age. Do you think Barron Trump's going to pick up a rifle at any point in his life?
Of course not.
Exactly. It's going to be some poor kid from some poor neighborhood. And
Daryl, it might be the best thing that ever happened to that poor kid. I served in the Army. Going to boot camp is great for you. You learn discipline. You learn how to keep your fucking mouth shut and do a push-up. We need a new culture. Rap drill country. This shit is over. This country is falling apart. We need to use our federal government to try to re-educate our population at the national scale. I'm sorry. But something has to be done. The culture, the homeless population, it's growing. This country is imploding. We're completely bankrupt. We need to basically re-kickstart it. And I don't know what your solution is, but I think a draft is a great idea.
I've said we need pain. And I think that pain is coming over the next 18 months. I don't think the average person understands how, when you're looking at when interest rates at maybe 9%, like some economists are saying, right? And we need pain. Pain will sometimes bring about discipline.
Do you know?
Well, it's like popping a zit or pulling a scab off.
Do you know who I think we need right now? I think we need the Congress that stood up for King Charles yesterday when he was speaking, and they all were Republicans and Democrats applauding him, standing up for him, and yet not all of them do one thing that he was talking about our allies. He was talking about different things and about checks and balances, and they all were agreeing. And that's who we need. We need them when they think that way and when they act that way. Both parties.
Meryl, they need to go read the Declaration of Independence and know that we have eternal separation.
King Charles was also arguing back to Magna Carta, which I don't even think Trump, that's one iota what's in that thing.
This is just always. You didn't know the Declaration of Independence when he pointed to it. He just said, "That's lovely. That's love."
But here's a king, a sitting king, right? We bested his ancestor, King George, right? But then we reconstituted what we learned from them and their history and all the other histories of Western civilization and others. And we built this bedrock of a democracy. I think King Charles is basically saying, hey guys, wake up to what it is you built. You beat us, and then you built this great government, and now you're losing your way. Does it take a sitting king, to remind these guys? Is that the only guy that can?
That's my point. That's what we need.
What way are you talking about, David?
What do you mean? What am I talking about? Did you know this?
Yeah, what's the way that King Charles told us that we lost our way? What have we lost? I'm asking you. Hello?
Well, when is this prime minister? When is a sitting head of state ever come to the United States Congress, the United States, and then had to remind us of what we came from and what we're about? You tell me in our history when that has happened.
Well, I'm just looking at this from like a perspective of like a baseball team. I mean, I'm rooting for Team America. I don't understand why you guys don't root for the same team.
But that's kind of a problem, right? Like we've chosen these camps, like Mets and Yankees. You're a Mets fan or a Yankees fan. You're a Knicks or a Net fan, and we've gone into our camps. And it doesn't really matter. Hey, my team cheated. I don't care. We won. It's not about the game anymore. It's about the outcome. And that outcome is only, what people don't realize is outcome is only benefiting certain people. So like when Trump says, we're gonna make so much money, who's the we? That money's not being shared with the American people. That money's not being trickled out or trickled down. It's this detachment from reality.
The gentleman who created trickle-down economics, before Reagan even left office, said this was the worst mistake he made.
Yeah, but it never works. It has never worked. They talk about it. They talk about it all the time. It has never worked, and yet every time a Republican gets in the White House, they start talking about this trickle-down economics.
Well, listen, these conversations are all circular and they've been happening for years on Clown House. Why can't you just admit that Donald Trump is the better administrator? He's the better governor than Kamala Harris. You guys are fucking crazy if you think Kamala would be doing a better job in fixing this shit than Donald Trump.
I think Kamala, she was not only transformative, she would have been. I think we voted for Trump 2 times because we wanted disruption. And Kamala Harris would have administrated the government far better than Donald Trump. But we wanted disruption, and that's what we got. And so we have
No. It wasn't just disruption, Scott. It was also it's a continuation of a perceived status quo in this country, where the white majority still doesn't want to relinquish
Bingo.
Thank you, Chris.
She didn't win. She didn't win because she was a white woman. She was a black woman married to a white Jewish.
I don't think this has anything to do with race.
I do disagree. She would have been transformative because all of her plans that she wanted to initiate, or policies she wanted to initiate, would transform the next generation into being able to have not only more rights, but also have more things as far as assets. She was the only person who was speaking about going back and actually investigating while we were still processing after COVID. She was the only person talking about actually helping people with small businesses get business loans that could actually benefit more small business opening up. And she was the only person talking about. But she would have been.
Yeah, she would have left the border open and opened the border even more. She would have given trans surgeries to prisoners. She would have further indebted this country even more. Chris, you're delusional, sir. Hello?
I'm sorry. She also.
Let's not do the I didn't interrupt you game. Hello?
Sorry, sir. Prior to them becoming 50 years old, which was the average around COVID for home purchases, it was about 50 years of age for the person actually able to purchase a home.
That's all wishful thinking, Chris.
Oh, no, wait. Can I finish? And then y'all
Sure.
Because y'all gonna rebut everything I say regardless, because y'all playing, as girls stated, and I used to state this in that other space, y'all playing team sports anyway with all this information, policy.
Go ahead, Chris. Play the race card. Go ahead.
I didn't say race card. I said they play team sport.
Chris, I have a question.
Like girl just stated, because everybody's gonna pick their side, and regardless if their side is doing well or doing terrible, they're gonna say, "I picked that side. I'll never leave that side." So we're not even having a genuine, honest conversation about.
Okay, Chris, I have a question. What do you think it would look like if there were no teams, no sides, no camps? What would it look like in your opinion?
I don't think that there should not be teams. I think people should be able to be realistic with their team's not doing well. All right, I'll give you an example. I've been a Laker fan my whole life. When the Lakers weren't doing good, I wasn't saying, "Oh, they're going to the championship this year." No, I said they need to rebuild. They need to work on making sure their team is prepared to even make the playoffs. I was able to be subjective in understanding that my team needed help in certain aspects before they could even be the champion. And I think we're watching these people, or not these people. I don't want to subject anybody, Democrat or Republican. I'm watching the parties find themselves picking of their team and just riding in it, even if they're not good, and saying, "Hey, we won. We're not good at being leaders, but we won it, so we're the best option." We cannot honestly say that because we've seen all the failures.
Hello?
Of this administration, of his previous administration when he was in office, when he flubbed COVID and millions of people died because he.
Yeah, the vaccine killed 2 million people on impact, the largest carcinogenic event in human history. Hello?
Okay. Put those stats.
Put that stat in the chat, man!
But what I'm stating is we're watching Trump destroy this country, and in the same breath, I just heard a man that said Kamala Harris would have been worse off for this country. And we can't honestly say that because she actually had an agenda that would have pushed and helped this country. We're saying Trump had a better agenda or having a better chance at this. But he would never know. We would have known. We would have known if we realized that he actually is not doing anything he said.
We would never know, Chris. It's not about what she's gonna do. It's about the faith. People didn't have faith in her. No matter what she was talking about.
He's not even doing the things he knows the vice president to do.
Exactly. The reputation speaks for itself.
I think what Kamala would have done is a sort of conservative welfare state forward. So I think, Richard Rorty, one of the best philosophers in the history of modern philosophy, was being interviewed by Robert Harris on Entitled Opinions, and he said, "What can philosophy do for the world?" And he says, "Well, I guess it could make, I guess I wish most of the world become more like the United States and the United States become more like Scandinavia." And I think that's what Kamala would have done. She would have pushed us in a little bit more of a Scandinavian direction, which I think...
Which is un-American.
Kamala was responsible of the border
and she couldn't even handle that.
How, I gotta ask a question. Hold on, Chris. Can I ask a question? Like, so someone said something about Biden, right? So other than, I live in New York City. I don't live in a border town, right? So when you just said, like, you know, she was with Biden, so that's the reputation. Other than like this border thing, and maybe you're like a single issue person, right? What exactly did Biden do that you didn't like? You know, because his economy, as how we measure economic success, was actually good. So other than quote unquote the border, what problems did you have with Biden's presidency?
Well, let's start that Biden wasn't even the president. Let's start with that.
You're not answering my question.
Hold on. He just did answer your question.
No, that's not really an answer. But go ahead.
Oh, yes, it is. He just told you everything he thinks when he told you Biden was not really the president.
It's pretty clear, dude. It's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear.
I don't agree with that.
That's not even an intelligent contribution to
So
the
hold on, Chris. So Yassine, so
I don't agree with that.
hold on. Just give me one second. Because you literally have photos of Trump falling asleep, right? And so you say Biden wasn't running the country.
Falling asleep is different than not being able to.
Let me finish. Do you sincerely believe that Trump is making every decision that comes out of his administration?
Of course not. It's a team effort. Of course, there's some decisions that are gonna come down to him, and he's gonna consult a lot of people. But at the end of the day, we need a president who's not a vegetable.
I have a question for you guys, all of you.
Are we being punked? Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Joe,
What's up,
hey,
Jay?
Carol, before you ask that question, can I pose the information that he just gave us?
He's not a vegetable.
Because the information he just gave us was Biden was not running the economy, if that was the case. Joe made a great point.
I actually thought he said that Biden wasn't the president.
No,
I
and that's
thought
cool too.
What's he saying that Biden?
He said that.
But if he wasn't the
He
president,
ran, guys. He's gone. He ran.
okay, because I was going to say if he wasn't the president, and Durrell stated that the economy was pulled from the depths of hell due to COVID, and if we take every measurement, the economy was doing well, great, whatever words you want to use. Wouldn't Kamala Harris?
16 million jobs.
Wouldn't Kamala Harris be a part of that administration, a part of that office, a part of that group of people who would have air quote been running the presidency?
Well, you know, technically, historically, the vice president doesn't actually really get a lot of credit for doing things.
And I do understand that, but the narrative he was pushing was that if Biden wasn't running the presidency, he wasn't in office, he was asleep, he was a vegetable, as he said. So who was the administration who actually did all of the legwork? Who was the people in charge who did all of the legwork? How can you say that the vice president wouldn't have had a tie into that? And you're also
Let's move on.
And you're
But I
also
have to say
saying
that,
that
why are we
he
talking
was
about something?
Yeah, Chris, let's move on. Let's go.
Why are we talking about Biden and Harris? They're not the same.
Because Biden was the worst president you guys ever had. It's no kidding, you went to Trump after. The vice president was who was running after him. And look at the debates. Both of them did horribly.
Do you agree with him? Do you
Maybe
agree
it's a joke.
Do
They
you
didn't give him
agree,
enough
Andy?
dosage to get him on the stage.
Look, I will say this. I think one of the reasons, so it's very interesting. People always run against being Washington insiders, right? I'm not a Washington insider. Biden was a Washington insider, and he got a lot of things done. I mean, he knew how to. I mean, it also blew up the deficit, but he did know how to run government, and I think he knew committee structures. He knew DC. I think he was
All the immigrants.
he was an incredibly effective president. No, you don't have to like his policies, but you have to say the guy was. He knew how to make the wheels of Washington work in a way that we haven't seen in decades.
I know, Scott, but I would argue at the end, his ego got the best of him because originally he said he implied he was only going to be a one-term.
Yeah, absolutely.
He
Yeah.
was going to build a bridge, and the way it ended, and his ego after that debate fiasco. I mean, I put a lot of our current state actually on Joe Biden allowing 2.0 number 47 to occur after we all experienced what number 45 was all about.
No, I agree. I think Biden could have ridden into the sunset beautifully if he would have said, I'm not running. I'm not at the midterms. He had said,
and
I'm not.
that's my point, and Scott.
Yeah.
That's my point about the party. You've spent literally 4 years calling this guy illegitimate, calling Trump this, calling Trump that, and then you agree to a debate against a guy who you've basically said tried to overthrow the government, and then to find out that the reason they did the debate is because ABC made $1 million contribution to both the RNC and the DNC tells you everything that you fucking need to know, and that's what pissed me off. Like, they literally spent 4 years talking about how this guy was a criminal, and then they agreed to a debate with a criminal because of $1 million contribution to a PAC.
34X.
Can I ask a question about something that's current now? Forget Biden.
Go ahead, Meryl.
They're gone. They're not there. So I want to know, how do you feel about Russia? How do you feel about our president screwing over Ukraine and partnering with not only with Russia, who is supplying intelligence to Iran, who we are in a war with, and who are supplying intelligence.
I will tell you that.
That was our.
You missed it earlier, Meryl. I talked all about the Russian spy scandal and real estate and money laundering.
I will say this. I think our treatment of Ukraine is the biggest anti-proliferation thing that I've seen in my life. I think. So basically, we got Ukraine to give up their nukes, right? And we said, you can give up your nukes because we're not going to let you into NATO, but we'll protect you from Russia. So basically, Trump has gone back on that sort of international pact. If I were any country in the world right now, the first thing I would do is get a nuclear weapon, because I would think, I would look at the Ukraine's example, and I would say, look, if they had nukes, they'd be in a much better strategic position. And so that's what ultimately, one of Trump's legacies will be proliferation of nuclear weapons.
Scott, do you know who it's reported is starting to go down that path?
No.
The first.
I watched it there, Howard.
Turn
Sorry.
the Matrix out.
I'm sorry, Canada.
Right, yes. They're talking
Just, I don't know if you guys saw the reporting, but somebody called 47 today and said, hey, don't interfere with the oil shipments, right? Something does not make sense in all of this.
Daryl,
unless it absolutely does.
Daryl, you keep referring to the Democrats as like a monolith or something when it's really George Soros backing Hillary Clinton, the huge ego, taking control of the party, throwing Bernie Sanders under the bus. Hello?
Who's saying that? I'm sorry.
That's
AJ. Who's the person who was saying George Soros is doing
That's
this?
Kitover.
It's me, I'm talking. Universe.
Why are you here? Mr. Kitover, why are you here? You're a troll. I don't understand you.
Well,
You're a troll.
no, not a troll. You just don't like what I'm saying. That doesn't make me a troll because you call me a troll, Meryl.
You are a troll. This is how you contribute to an intelligent discussion, and you bring up George Soros. You are an anti-Semite. You are, excuse me, I'm not going to call you.
No, I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm just trying to... Meryl, you're not listening. You're just yelling. Meryl, Earth to Meryl, Universe to Meryl. I'm just commenting on what Daryl keeps saying. And it's my opinion. There's no such thing as the Democrat Party per se. It's really just who tries to lead it, who's got the billionaire in his pocket. But Hillary Clinton, I saw a video of her praising George Soros. She's clearly established a relationship with him. And it's not unreasonable to question billionaires' money in politics. That's all I'm saying, right? You don't have to get so upset, Dr. Merrill.
Okay, I'm sorry. Billionaires are all politics. I'm sorry, I do not like the anti-Semitic thing about the George Soros. That thing is, that's a hot spot, and you're doing it deliberately.
No, I'm not. I'm not bringing up George Soros for any particular reason. I mean, if you want, I'll just retract it and just defer to, billionaires' interventions in politics. And so when Daryl says the Democrat Party is making bad strategic decisions, it's for obvious reasons, Daryl. It's not because they...
Meryl, John, let's hear from Jane. She's new on stage. Hey, Jane, go ahead.
Thank you, Meryl. Scott, Meryl, and
Jane, you class up the stage whenever you're on it.
well, hello. Just kidding. John. I'm not going to take what John said too seriously about George Soros because I think you're just, stirring the pot, John. But what I did want to ask about, because I haven't been on Clubhouse much today, so Meryl or Howard, did anyone get into discussions about the Supreme Court decision and the implications for Black Americans and voting?
No, I was not. I worked today, so I did not.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about it. Once the new Supreme Court book up.
John, I'm skipping you. What about you, Daryl?
This was Jane. This was in Louisiana, right? I mean, this was
that case.
Yeah.
So no, I can't do the intricacy, but essentially, the dissent with the obvious, it was 6-3, included this is like bad letter, like very as much as but it's really bad. So read up on it.
I absolutely will tonight.
That's right. Yeah, basically, they have once again reversed or inverted the intended use of the civil rights.
Yeah, Jared,
Literally.
It opened the door to racial gerrymandering.
Correct.
Weird.
And I did.
Yeah. But
And Florida took action too.
yeah, they're gonna all follow it. Don't you think, Howard?
But again, what's anybody gonna do, right? It's
Florida and Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
it's like more quote unquote states should start saying, I forgot who the governor was. She said, but I think it was a blue state. And she's like, look, we have to start fighting economically. And she said, I will collect taxes, but I'm not going to send them in. More states that actually have economic power have to start exercising economic power because Dems have to figure out, are they really in for a fight, and they have to start fighting.
Yeah, no, I mean, Daryl, you're right. I mean, I don't, and I've been sort of, I've been reluctant on this because I tend to be, and some of this is my Christianity, I tend to be conciliatory. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think these are, we have to be in for a fight.
You're fighting for your existence. This is not just politics anymore, right? You're fighting for your existence. So you're telling all these black and brown people that we're going to collect income tax from you. We're going to force you to pay income tax, but we're going to strip you of political power. And the whole idea of this country was, no taxation without representation. So we're going to force you to pay.
But how's it stripping them of power? It's making the law equal before all. We've gone too far left. There's no equality between these political parties. It's all just a Democrat industrial complex. Hello?
You thought that was all from the left? This
What
is
happened to you, John? You're getting dumber.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for that.
No, I live in Chicago where when I go to the ballot box, there's no Republicans on the ballot. In Chicago, there are no Republicans on the ballot. They're not there. It's all just Democrat, 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 Democrat. Hello?
If there's been any hegemony in American politics, it's been Reaganism, right? I mean, Trump is the second coming of, even Obama. I mean, look. I mean, let's just say tax rates in this country. Right? Under Eisenhower, when we built up middle class, the top marginal tax rate was 89%. Kennedy took it, I think, to 62, and people thought people thought it was a crazy right-wing move. I mean, people thought Kennedy was insane. Reagan took it to 38, and then Bush took it to 34. Obama let those tax cuts expire. He let the 34 go to 38, and people called him a socialist. That's, I mean, the dominant ideology in this country is Reaganism. I mean, for good or for ill, it blows up deficits. It cuts social services. It's pretty dysfunctional. I mean,
It also blows up the debt because we have to start selling more debt when we have deficit shortfalls.
There's another issue, and that's that the tax cuts for the wealthiest people in this country are permanent. Trump made them permanent. Congress made them permanent. For the middle class, 2 years. That's it. 2 years.
No, there's nothing permanent in life, Meryl. You can defund the big, beautiful bill by passing new legislation and reverse it out. You just have to have the willpower to do it, Meryl. It's called political capital.
I have to have
Hello?
the willpower to do it. Excuse me. I have to have the willpower to do it. You don't think I have the willpower to try to have somebody who is competent and who cares about the deficit and cares about spending and cares about all citizens? I'm not quite understanding you.
Well, the big, beautiful bill gives $500 billion in tax credits. I'm not talking about you personally, Meryl. I'm talking about the Democrat Party in Congress. They're so corrupt and bought off, they'll never fucking refund the tax credits. Hello? Why are we giving Fortune 500 companies our fucking money? Why do we go to work and pay income tax when Fortune 500 corporations get tax credits on our back and they transfer the liability to us? The system's fucking rigged, Meryl. Speak up and speak the truth. Hello?
Who do you think is running those Fortune 500 companies, John? A bunch of leftists? No.
No, there's no way.
CEO
No.
class.
Not the financiers either.
Very conservative. So, I think you better.
No, a lot of the liberal elites run major corporations. And you know how I know that? Because every fucking June they do LGBTQ month. And you know what else they do? They fucking do all kinds of other bullshit, these liberal leftist CEO leaders. They're so woke, all their DEI hiring, BLM, CRT, pronouns. What fucking planet do you live on, Jane? Who the fuck do you
Can I
think?
ask you a question?
I just moved to the audience. Look up.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I thought that was the game
Somebody's-
fighting with John. No?
Why fight with him? Why fight with him?
Why?
He's not real.
Why? He's not a real
He's not
person. Oh, he's
There's
real.
a nice alliance going with him.
Yeah, no, at times he's on point and he's smart, but then he goes into massive statements like that just intellectually is just not honest.
Really? Brady seems pretty fucking honest to me.
Agree with that.
Oh, it's honest. It's so honest. You had to kick me.
I never felt like one of the cool kids in school. I kind of feel like a cool kid in school right now. And we got a nice little room going.
Why?
If you want to know what?
Can
I
you
want
mod
to-
me again?
What's that?
Please mod me again.
Yeah, of course, Jane. Jane, I always mod you.
No, I know. Thank you.
Oh, Universe Earth has something to say. Invite them.
That's Kitover, Maryland.
Yeah, you kicked me because what I said stings. The truth hurts. That's when I get kicked. When I say the truth, it hurts, and then you kick me.
That's so great. It's not true, don't talk
It is true.
Let's break it down. Who here works for Fortune 500 company?
I have not.
I have not.
You have not.
Jane has, and I think Howard has.
I think me and Howard have. And by the way, great. We signed up to be exploited. It's great. Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, I've worked for a Fortune 500 and a Fortune 50.
Yeah, there you go. How woke were those executives? Come on. No. And if anyone, Howard, I mean, it's not saying they were bad either. You know, it's just, it's so, John, I don't think that's fair. I do think that some companies were, thanks for the extra, were influenced in the 90s to do sort of these baby step programs that acknowledged, you guys, it's not great for most of the people here. Meaning, yeah, John.
Oh, he's bad.
Let me finish. So I think they got a little bit of a reputation for quote unquote being woke because it looked good, like in the market for an employer, not in the product sense, as an employer of choice they used to call it back in the day. So I think that got all fucked up.
Yeah, well, one example, Jane, that didn't help themselves and I think became like the poster child was actually Target.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Do you know what's interesting too, Jane? I mean, Chris Christie was on Jon Stewart's podcast, and Chris Christie said basically, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna staff up this thing with the best lawyers. I want diversity. I'm gonna talk to all the best people, and he basically diversified his section of the Justice Department. And Jon Stewart listens to what, after 5 minutes of Chris Christie saying what he was doing, he said, "You did DEI."
Basically smart, but
yeah, basically Chris
DEI
Christie.
people are mostly not smart, so I.
Basically, Chris Christie just, and Christie was dumbfounded. He was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You did DEI. Basically, what you did was you were intentionally inclusive and you diversified the office. You just did DEI.
We're good people.
Yeah.
We're excellent. All
Yeah.
different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Who put your father in jail, in prison?
God, it's amazing they don't even know what DEI is.
Agree.
Agreed.
I gotta get that clip. That's good.
No, it was a great conversation. I mean, it was really. I mean, Stewart's good. I mean, he does. Yeah.
Chris, you really think people don't know that DEI is a scam, Chris? And you're going to sit here and explain the philosophy of DEI? It's a fucking scam. It's a fraud, Chris.
It's not a scam. It's basically.
It's a scam because it's unconstitutional. You should read the law, gentlemen. Woohoo! You should read the law, gentlemen.
What is it, John or University? We're gonna have him come back on stage and say, "You don't know what you're talking about," and you literally just gave us the breakdown about somebody who supposedly didn't want DEI, put his whole group of people together, basically using the basic.
He staffed up one of the best U.S. attorneys in offices in the country. And basically, he even said, like, "Don't bring me a lot of white guys." He was like, it was funny. Stewart was like flabbergasted. He was like, "You did DEI. Like, that's what you did, right? Like, you came into the office and diversified because you thought my talent pool is weak. I'm gonna go and search out the best people, and the best people are gonna look like it's gonna be more diverse."
In fairness to Universe, I would say a great deal of what it gets labeled DEI is very, very subpar. What's great DEI, there's plenty of it for decades, or people who would have a conversation, what it sounds like Jon Stewart had with Chris Christie's got, and then say, yeah, so are you against that? And smart white men go, no, like that's a good idea, let's do that. It's not, if you have to sell it too hard, you're not either selling it right or it's a bad product. But when you raise it through dialogue and say, hey, like, we approve, would this be better? It's really quite basic. Sorry, Howard.
Question for you. A situation where DEI person or someone who would qualify isn't the best candidate for an open position, how do you feel?
That's an easy one. First, when you say DEI candidate, you're speaking of someone who isn't a white guy, right?
Isn't white or isn't male or both?
Right, yeah, so isn't a member of the groups who have most of the job.
Oh, so it discriminates against white males. Okay, got it.
One answer. You said they're not qualified. They shouldn't even be interviewing.
No, say someone is, two people are up for a job and the person, say is a minority, or considered a minority, is actually the second best candidate. The first best candidate is a white male, whatever.
Yeah.
Who should get the job?
Here's what I've said in the past.
I want to answer that too, Jay, when you're done.
Oh, excellent, yeah. Well, go ahead first, Chris. Go first.
It's like, what's the point of going to college if somebody's going to beat you because they're a black female and you're a better candidate? What's the point? What's the point?
Let's go to Jane and then to Chris.
I would first say, are any two candidates ever truly equal, particularly executives? No, is the answer. Would you agree, Howard? You always have two candidates and you wind up like, okay, like they could both do it. Have you been in that situation? Where like you could go with either one. But if there's a clear number one, then you go with number one. Period. You do not have
Howard, if I can.
Number two, I'm almost done, Gerald. Sorry. I would challenge to say, if someone said, well, you know, what is the reason? You know, like, there's sometimes a diffuse sense, oh, we should go with a woman. I'll just keep it on gender. Why? Because smart people, like Chris Christie, apparently, Scott told us, realized there's a lot of smart fucking women, and some shit goes on that keeps them from advancing beyond, and it's different in every organization. So yeah, when we have an opportunity and we have two candidates who could, either of them could do this job, it could be okay with either. One might have more strength in this skill set, one might have this. If it's that situation, Howard, and you have a man and a woman, choose the woman in service of the value you get from having the broader views, from diversifying your leadership team eventually, et cetera, et cetera. Go ahead. Thanks for listening.
I'll make a quick.
Chris, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I'll make a quick joke. Out of Howard's question, a white man is the boss. He is hiring two qualified candidates for one. Air quotes has better qualifications than the minority. To me, that comes down to what are you looking for out of your candidates? If you're looking for diversity, if you're looking for a different thought process, if you're looking for somebody who may have had a different upbringing who could give you a different outlook, you would always want to go with the diversity that you're hiring for. Let's say the CEO was a white man. Well, if you're just going to hire the white man because he has better qualifications, he has a higher GPA in college, he has more experience in the years of working, well, you may actually be hiring somebody who's not going to have any diversity in their thought process like you. But if you're just hiring a person who's a little bit different, maybe they're Indian, maybe they're black, maybe they're Hispanic, but they also have the degrees to be in that position, you'll be gaining more from that person through experience, through different upbringings, than you will someone who just looks like you, sounds like you, and maybe even have the same experience in life as you. So in my perspective, you probably will want to go
the minority in this example, so you can get that diversity that you're looking for that can take you from a common thought into a deeper thought, a critical thinking thought, maybe. And I'll leave there.
So Howard, hold on. So Howard, it's interesting, right? Because I think when you ask the question like about qualifications, what we leave out is sometimes the human factor. You know, and it was like 2007 on Wall Street. There was a resume study, like it was the big firms. It was like Merrill Lynch, Goldman, McKinsey, which is more consulting, but they did McKinsey. And what they did was they took these resumes, and the resumes were like exactly the same, even down to like the address. They didn't even change the addresses. But what they did was they gave some of the names on these resumes like very ethnic names, like Miguel Sanchez. And the reason I say Miguel Sanchez, I'll tell you why. So what they found is that the more quote unquote, you can't see me, I'm making quotation marks, the more ethnic a name was, these people were 7 times less likely to even be called for an interview. So the idea becomes how you know it's this idea about quote unquote inherent biases, right? So how do we know, how can we prove depending on what industry you're in? Because I think like different jobs have.
Daryl, you guys live in an alternate universe. Most people hire and date off of beauty. You guys must all be ugly and not understand how attraction works. Hello?
So what I was saying is that when we talk about like qualifications, when people who have a certain name can't even get called for the interview, it's hard to kind of balance this out. So what they did was, after the study, they allowed the HR managers to kind of respond to these surveys, right? And they were allowed to respond anonymously so that they could talk openly. And the overwhelming response was, why didn't Miguel Sanchez get called? Because his name was the name that stuck out in the study, because Miguel Sanchez did not get called for interviews. And were concerned about the culture of the company and the culture of the firm. So when these HR people are looking at resumes to then pass on, it's not always just about the school or the qualification. Sometimes HR people are actually thinking about the culture of the company that they do HR for.
Really appreciate you sharing that, and that you can see. Hold on, you can see. You can see your name. The example I wanted to go to though is shooting's fine. To how executives are incentivized and what's on their bonus worksheet, and there was a specific incentive to diversity on my bonus worksheet one time, and it's implied.
Sorry to hear that. I never advocated.
No, then you're going to be. So you had a goal. You had a goal of, there was a measurable of diversity, right? And you had a goal, and I was incentivized to hire, whether it was a minority, a female, basically someone who's not white and Caucasian. And all I can tell you from the very beginning, incentivized to not even look at that candidate, even though there were a couple of examples where I would contend the best person, the most experienced person for the job at that time. So that just shows you that it's definitely, there's a lot of different dimensions to it. I believe everything that you said, Daryl, because I could see that about Miguel Sanchez, but I also saw pragmatically how I was incentivized, and no one had a skit. You just knew what your goals did. Do I want to achieve that diversity goal or not? As part of my quarterly bonus calculation, and I could decide, screw it, I'm gonna not score there, or most likely, more people are figuring out how to maximize her bonus when certain so I just wanted to share that. That's how DEI come into play, or at least has come into play firsthand in corporate
was a long trend, Howard, long, and it became marked as, quote, best practice. So if you had someone running a diversity function and they, in my opinion, weren't really looking at the quote unquote downstream impact of some of these practices, meaning you're gonna piss a lot of people off. It's not gonna work anyway. That was my philosophy.
Yeah, because best practices is most corporations have the Jack Welch people of
You're
best
making
practices.
Howard.
So
it generated more racial animosity in the companies where they did it. It generated a lot of negative things.
Hold on, because I wanna say something. Yeah, you are. Give me 2 seconds. I wanna say something because I've only ever worked on Wall Street before I got into entertainment, and I can tell you that New York City is one of the most diverse cities in the world. But I can tell you, I've seen sales floors where you might see one black person, right? So you're talking about a trading floor. There might be one black person or one Spanish person. So the question becomes, are we literally saying that? And again, I'm talking from my bubble, I'm talking anecdotally. Are we really saying that in a city as large as New York, with some of the best schools, that on a sales floor with, like, let's say 500 guys trading bonds and all of this stuff, are we literally saying that there's no one else qualified in the city that is not white to do this job? Or is it just very likely that when certain candidates come in trying to get these jobs where you can make $1 million a year, right? That there's also there's also the idea of the floor manager. I want someone who's going to fit into the culture of my sales desk. I'm sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, you're on something, Darrell. I was just gonna say, change your point to best practice is a lot of the corporations adopted the GE playbook of forced rankings. So then whether it was quarter, every 6 months, you had to go through each department and you had a forced rank. Whoever was in your bottom, depending on the size, your bottom 10%, 20%, regardless of how confident they were, you had to basically exit them either out of the department or possibly out of the company. So that was another accelerator that forced you in terms of going into that hiring process, just on that type of candidate that you were looking for.
Well, that could be one of the most epic, dumb white guy ideas that turned into something that people have made a living on. This notion of, that'll drive the behaviors that we want. But there's been plenty of retrospective about what actually happens in organizations that adopt that. It's cutthroat, it's ugly, and the people who suffer most are those who have marginalized identities. With all, mixed. Mostly black people, mostly women. So it's all rigged.
I guess my question would be to the people that worked in those Fortune 500 or Fortune 50 companies, when they did hire those minorities, those black, those Indian, those natives, those Hispanic people, for those jobs they were qualified for, therefore may not be as qualified as, let's say, a white counterpart, was there a huge dip in the productivity of the work or just the work?
Hello, I got a question. Is this really the priority of America right now at $40 trillion in debt? Are you guys living in a different universe? Hello?
Workers have issues with them, or was it the corporation losing because they took all these people instead of taking their quote the best and the brightest?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah, I'll tell you
Are they losing it, or are they just kind of, maybe the culture, maybe they're not able to talk a certain way around certain people, and the culture is a little different, but is the company running a little different financially? Are they gaining, or are they still positive? Are they still moving upward and onward? I guess that'll be my question.
It's a big one. I guess, John, I'll bring you back when I give my answer. I don't want to get interrupted. So I think, Chris, what I observed, so I'm 58, so I'm coming at this as someone with a longitudinal view, getting longer every day.
Jane, you don't look any older than 55.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But the point is just having been part of something. There is never, ever been, in my experience, what I've observed as someone who was at Chase, JP Morgan Chase, coming up with the quote-unquote metrics that everyone was demanding. These programs have no metrics. We can't measure the impact of them. How can you ask us for money if you don't have a metric? It's okay. It's good business 101. So when we, the collective, like the people who have responsibility for coming up with the metrics that would rationalize budgets, and also smart people actually want good, like you want to be able to measure whatever the intervention or activity or thing you feel will improve a problem you do. Smart people design it in. It's just business. So, but first, the whole premise that there have been women and minorities, I don't really want to go up it too much, certainly black people in America, they're always overqualified. There's no scenario, Chris. I don't believe it's ever happened. Do I think there's been, to the degree that sometimes there are bad hires, quote unquote, and shit doesn't work out, but look at Ketanji Brown Jackson and the grids that list her qualifications as compared to so many of the other historical and current Supreme Court justices.
I agree.
Yeah, like that's what I always thought. Like, wow, this person went here. Like, the pedigree and credentials were always better on the women and people of color, particularly black people. So that's probably my answer to your question. That is most important. But what I've seen a lot is that people think these things are going to work. If you piss off, you can call it a stakeholder group or whatever, like the people in power, we're always fighting that.
Yeah, I know, Jaden, I'm not.
And they didn't want it.
Right.
So it wasn't smart to piss them off and put
No.
their bonuses attached to something like this. That was
I appreciate that insight, and I do appreciate it, and I hope that does answer your question, Chris. The only additional point I want to make, unfortunately, an unintended consequence is as you're trying to build diversity, there may be times that you are passing over a better, more qualified candidate who doesn't meet DEI profile, and isn't that also a discrimination that
no.
I didn't get that job and I was the most qualified?
No. And the only reason I say that wouldn't be discrimination because it's still literally up to the company. However, that person that is also having that job, that air quote DEI hire, is extremely qualified also. They may not be to the level of the person who you can say got looked over, but they are not your
Right.
janitor taking on.
Every white guy who doesn't get the job thinks that they were more qualified.
No.
I don't think you're like that. But
I am citing an example, again, that the hiring manager is incentivized, at least I was incentivized, to not look at that traditional Anglo-Saxon male. To me, that actually is a form of discrimination. Shouldn't it ultimately be based on merit of the best?
you know what? The metrics don't bear it out. I'll leave it at that.
First of all,
first of all, we don't live in a meritocracy. There's not a more qualified white man that got passed over for a person of color, a woman, to get a job. What those policies did was try to open up the floodgates so this very narrow funnel of people that even have the opportunity to get through got wider so that folks who are qualified, who aren't the traditional candidate, can actually make it to the interview.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying you can't broad brush it. And there are examples where the best candidate didn't meet a profile, regardless of color. To me, that is a form of also discrimination.
Yeah, I just don't believe that's true.
It happens that way.
I think it's a lot more boys club than it is, I was way more qualified, I got over it. I'm with Jane. A lot more Caucasian individuals believe that they're way more qualified than their counterparts of the minority that has the job. Just like she stated, Judge Brown, same situation. I'm sure somebody else was like, oh man, I'm way more qualified than her, without even understanding how qualified she truly is. Again, when it comes to diversity also, you can't just look at the things you see on paper and say that person is more qualified than you because of paper. Sometimes I'm more qualified than that person because of experience.
If this were a meritocracy, we wouldn't have the president we have. I mean, that is very
I agree.
You went from Barack Obama to this guy.
Specific examples in corporate.
I mean, I understand.
Even in corporate.
I have one illustration in corporate. I'll make it quick. But I think it translates. And Howard, it relates to what you're saying, which, just because I know you, I'm taking you at face value. You're a earnest person. I think that when the white male, in that scenario, where you had a white male and a black male, let's say, so gender's out of it, and the black male got the job, it didn't mean that white guy sucked. He's still good. He individually will probably be okay. He will get another job. Is it very disappointing to not get a job? Yes. Is that disappointment in the aggregate kind of rare for white men, or at a time? Was it? Yes. So I think that the emotionality of that rejection.
Yeah, no,
The only thing I can say with that though is we're trying to get the best, it's not about will they go get another job. It's kind of like for my institution, like I want to do what's best for my institution or for my organization or for my company. And I think that's ultimately what, Howard, it's when you say, I guess like, for me, it's like when we say better qualified, right? Like, what are those measurements? Because in my world, right, so the guy who got a 96 on his Series 7 is sitting next to a guy who passed with a 70 and they're doing the same job. So I know like all the industries are kind of different, but when we say better qualified, are we talking about prior experience? Because if two college grads come in, neither one of them has ever really worked before. So when we say when we say better qualified, like how are we measuring better qualified?
Well, again, and I mean, there's examples when you're interviewing, you've got a rating sheet, right? And I'm just citing an example. All I'm really trying to point out is that there's an example in the one I shared with you where I was incentivized based on my bonus sheet to focus on the diversity. I'm not against that. I just want to be clear on that. But if I knew up front that I'm looking for someone who's going to be a minority candidate from the very beginning, and yet someone who doesn't fit that profile is being interviewed and turns out based on qualification, experience, scoring, whatever you want to say, is clearly the better candidate, I've wasted that person's time. And frankly, I would say that in that one example, that is a form of discrimination. You can call it reverse discrimination, but from the very beginning, that person had no chance of being hired and was only being included just to check some boxes. That's my point. It does occur in corporate America. It does occur.
I do have a question.
Hold on one second, because Janie, you were at JP Morgan?
Yeah, I was Chase first. Morgan Chase, yeah.
In the city or where?
Yeah, in the city, 1993 to 2000.
Oh, okay, that was before me. Okay, cool.
I'm older.
I guess my one question to you, Howard, would be, since you have a real life experience with this, well, I guess it's two. The first one will be, since you know what those ratings were, how far off was that rating? That's kind of what Earl was asking. Because if the rating is 3 points or 5 points, was it really that much for even you, the hiring staff, to feel a certain way about not picking that person? Because my second question would be, as that hiring person, how much did this affect you that you were having to overlook what you considered qualified white men or minority? Because I think that would be part of the job too, is being able to not look at the person or the race of the person and their accolades, and look at what I, as the company, am asking you to do. Again, no shot at you. I'm just interested in knowing not only how you felt about that person, but also how far was the distance between the rating system of one person who said the most likely or the most the higher potential individual to the person that you end up having to hire. Was it a 76 to a 95? Was it a 98 to a 95?
Right, and that's a reasonable question, Chris. All I'm saying is, in my career, I mean, I've hired dozens, if not, a few hundred people and executives along the way. I'm just trying to give some insight with how it worked, or at least it worked in the examples that I experienced. And I counted, I worked for what would qualify as 3 Fortune 500 companies. One of them is really large, it's considered a Fortune 50. And I'm just saying, there are incentive programs for executives guiding them on those hiring decisions. I'm not saying there isn't merit, and again, I can tell you personally, I've hired a lot of minorities. Many women work under, for me. I've mentored them. I'm not trying to make it specific about one example that I have. I'm just trying to share an insight because the topic came up about DEI hiring, and I just wanted to share after Daryl's example, which was a great example from, what was it, Bain or McKinsey, Daryl, that you were talking about with Miguel Sanchez?
It was just a resume study across Wall Street.
Yeah. And I was just adding another dimension of mechanically, at least and I'm not saying all Fortune 500 companies are the same, but what I experienced and what I saw, there were incentivized programs. If I wanted to maximize my bonus, I had to, basically I was persuaded to lean a certain way, regardless of the quality of the best candidate.
But they were also qualified.
That was the plan of the program, to incentivize. Nothing you individually, Howard. Those programs, when the person went to pitch it to CEO or whoever, they were pitching it
So it was
as a way.
goal
Like, that's the game we're in. Let's incentivize the outcome we want. That's it. It was never distasteful when it was about a sales target or
But it's all about virtue signaling. It has nothing to do with turning a profit or efficiency. It's all political. It's all propaganda.
No. So, if you're a company, if you have a diversity of opinions, a diversity of backgrounds, a diversity of how you grew up, and you produce different results. And I know this, I've looked at thousands of startups, and those that are just white boys that all have the same background typically don't do as well in the long term as those with diverse management teams.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that argues that either way. I happen to agree with you personally. One story I wanted to tell to Howard about a white guy who made it really. This was like a poster child story for a while, and I had to check myself on, don't make him like a hero for this. However, it helped that he was a highly regarded, it was a divisional leadership team. He was the ops guy. This debate ensued about hiring, and hey, but the person who wasn't going to get the job was a star. It was like two internal candidates. So they knew him. They were like, oh, that's such a good next step for, whoever the guy was. And it took a white guy, this ops guy, his name was Dave, was willing to go like this and go, come on, guys. I'm not doing it justice, but he goes, we should take the woman because we have a company goal that says that our representation of women in leadership is not matching the recruiting polls of new hires out of engineering school. So if we ever want that to change, we have to make these decisions. And we put our thumb on the scale for things all the time in service of what's best for the organization. And I was like, yeah, what he said. Yeah, what he said. And they chose the woman. But it was healthy, Howard, because they were talking through.
There's nothing healthy which is unnatural. This is unnatural, and you're trying to create a propaganda and supersede what natural law is. That's why it's retarded.
John, you don't know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking
What do
about.
you think?
I just don't know.
It's stupid.
Like, this is just ridiculous. I mean,
Not ridiculous.
People that believe that, the black guy that got the job is just, a token, and,
You don't know what you're talking about. You know what my favorite projection is when somebody says, you don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
There probably is some cases in how PhD faculty got fired that perhaps there were too many people pursuing PhDs, and it was really hard for certain groups to get hired because of DI initiatives. I'm not saying that bad people got hired, but it made it, as you aggregated certain groups at certain times, it became really hard to get it A.
And why do you think disproportionately that there already weren't like a proportional number of people in those jobs, prepared and with the experience? Like, at some point you have to open up the door. And that's what the point was.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I don't know what happened in the 70s and before, and I don't dispute that.
We could tell you.
Yeah, well, I don't think that this is really actually, given what
You can go back
wasn't here earlier. You were,
50s.
yeah, well, the school funding is a real problem, at least from my perspective. The kids don't get to pick their parents, and the quality of the school shouldn't be dependent upon where your parents live. Everybody should get the same quality of school, at least from my perspective.
So I don't know anything about corporations or anything like this, but I will say this. When I got into my PhD program, I got into a really competitive program, and they took 10% of the applicants. And I was not the best person. And there were many people that didn't get in that were on paper better than me. One of the reasons they took me was I was relational. I contributed in seminars. I was the guy in the room that lit up. They liked when I was in classes. So I think these metrics, the objectivity of metrics, the idea that the metrics are objective is crazy. I mean, all of the metrics are subjective. I think, look, I was in the hunt. I mean, I was smart. I was, not disqualified, but I probably wasn't like one of the best candidates. But they took me, and some of it was they looked at me and thought about what I could add to the community, and it worked out. And I think that's largely. I think this idea that there's a meritocracy or that there are objective qualifications is insane. I mean, I think you're recruiting talent. You're a pitching coach or a batting coach. You're just, it's all subjective. You're talent scouting, and I think, and oftentimes the person that's in an ethnic minority situation with a female or something often adds to the quality of the room in a way that other people don't.
Scott, were you seen as a white presenting person
I don't even know.
at that point?
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, most people look at me and they don't see white, but I was the best guys in the seminar. I mean, I was, and women told me that, right? I mean, they said we just love your energy, and that was what I brought to the institution. I mean, I was not the most talented person, but I was not under talented. I mean, I was
Glasses half.
And if
I'm playing. What is going on in this room? I'm playing.
we having a good talk.
We having.
Okay, LGBTQ.
No, we having.
Then I'm gonna get educated, bitch.
What am I getting educated on?
Do you know the difference between trans?
is we're building a community, and you have to ask, what's the ideal community, and that stuff is cultural and contextual, and yeah, I don't know. So sorry,
No, Scott, that was a great way to put it. You're building a community. Now, if you're willing to allow your community to look like one type of person because that's in your heart or your mind or your company's vision, then that tells a lot about what you believe community looks like in a diverse world. We don't have to say country, a diverse world. But if you're building a community of diverse individuals, you're going to get 1,000 different ideas, 1,000 different takes, 1,000 different outlooks that could benefit your community. That goes from your streets to your neighborhoods to your Fortune 500 to your small business. It's something worth thinking about. Like I said, and it's something worth taking into your own heart and thinking, why do I want to look at things in this way? Why would I be okay with having a fully singular racial company? Even if that's an all black company, even if that's an all Hispanic company, an all white company, all
Purple? What about yellow and green? Pink? Pink companies?
Why would I think that that's a better company for myself?
Well, it's not a jobs program, right? It's actually to make a profit. That's why people get hired, is because they contribute to profit making. Hello?
That's a thought that we need to have as human beings. Because we don't live in that type of world, or that really diverse world. And wanting to split that down the middle and stay on our side of the field, or stay on our side of the, like I said, it's like sports. Stay on my team side because.
And Chris, I will say this too. I mean, before I entered my PhD program, I was. I don't even know why I want to tell this story, but I don't often talk about this, but so when I was an undergrad, I studied systemic racism and stuff. I went to a Christian college that was kind of liberal for a Christian college, and I decided the best thing I could do for my own consciousness was become part of an African American church. So for 5 years, I became a licensed AME Zion minister. It's the oldest historically black congregation community in the country. And
Actually, AME is older than AME Zion.
No, Zion's older.
It's not, but we can argue about it later.
1787 versus 1796. You're right. I got it wrong. Apologies.
Actually,
and being part of the AME Zion Church was one of the best things I ever did. And yeah, I mean, and I had no future in it. I had no systemic power in it. But it was great. I mean, it was great to be there and and I was a blessing in the community, and they were a blessing to me, and I learned a lot of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to make those kinds of decisions, right? I mean, I think I don't know that I would decide to do it again. I mean, maybe I would, but
What decision are you talking about? You're here right now on Clubhouse. This is your new ministry, Reverend Scott.
What's your ethnicity?
Puerto Rican and Jewish.
Okay.
Wait, you're a Michelin? Your dad is Jewish?
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm adopted, so
mom.
culturally, I'm white. I mean, like I was adopted, so I mean, the way I present is pretty white.
I thought you were from Uranus, the planet. Sorry, this is Universe speaking.
He's the worst, but he's so great.
Hey everybody, I'd like to contribute a little bit to this conversation.
Hey, Andrew, it's great to see you, my friend.
I'm getting feedback from Emily. Yeah, I got two kind of life examples. I had an opportunity after I did some schooling, after I started to lose my vision. And I think I got that job with a bank, a large bank here in Canada, because they were looking. One of the HR people at the time came and spoke where I was learning computers at the time. And I was told by my prof, if you will, don't approach this woman. Don't give her your resume. But I did, because you can't tell me not to. She's here. I'm going to do it. I asked her, will you take my resume? She said, certainly. So I don't know why that was being pushed this. Anyway, I ended up getting the job, which is fine. And eventually that bank was taken over by another bank. And I then applied for a job that I had no real qualifications for. I was the PC guy. This was mainframe stuff and security and nothing that I knew anything about. And I remember I got hired. And for a job wasn't because they were looking for somebody that was quote unquote disabled. Because I asked my boss after the first week, I said, why did you hire me? Because I feel like I'm drowning. And he goes, well, Andrew, I had 4 categories that I was looking for. And he named off 3 of them that he said, you scored low here, you scored medium here, and, whatever here, and you scored really high here. And I said, which one was that? He said, communication. He said, I need somebody who can say that plainly, without an accent, because many of the people that were in the department that I was going for had accents, and sometimes that's hard to convey information when you're bending your ear all the time.
Did you not know about your
That was
boots?
his opinion. So anyway, that's how I got the job. He said the rest you can learn, which I did. Now fast forward to the company that I have contract for now, and it's a small company. Every single person in that company has a disability and or has experience with disability. So that was a program that the lady that owns the company wanted to achieve. She wanted everybody in the company to have a disability. So if you came to the company and you were qualified but you didn't have a disability, you didn't know anything about disability, nobody in your life was disabled, or you didn't volunteer for disability, you were not going to get that job. So it does work in a lot of different ways, and I guess it just depends on the ethos. But if I look at my own parliament, we always insist that our parliament represent and look like the country that you're governing. And I think, many companies may want to consider that. You're in a community, you want to look and behave like that community.
Yeah, that's what the Democrats say. So they hire incompetent people and supersede qualified candidates. That's what they do in Chicago. That's what the mayor says. He says, we don't hire white people because we only hire people that reflect our community. That's racism. That's unconstitutional. It's illegal. There's laws that prevent racism and discrimination. Hello?
You can't take it wrong.
That's just not true. But Andrew.
This is true. It is true. You could actually maybe try to argue against me instead of just disqualifying me and dismissing me. Hello? Hello? The universe was speaking and I am not complete. Hello?
Yeah, it's the bubble universe.
Andrew, you're a white Canadian who speaks like a Canadian, and you were told that you were hired because you don't have an accent and you're blind? You should thank God you got that job. It was a miracle.
Okay. Andrew, I just want to say that the position that you got where everyone had experience with disability or working with folks with disability, obviously you were working for you were working with a population, like serving a disabled population, correct?
Well, we're in the accessibility.
Right.
Right. So right away,
It wasn't arbitrary, like, oh, we just want only disabled people here. There was a purpose.
There's a focus. Yes. Yeah. And that's just that experience. But it's interesting that, this woman, I met her at a committee meeting for the city. And she says, we're all volunteers here, and it's lovely to get a little book at the end of all the volunteer sessions that we do once a month or whatever. It's great, but I wish we could get paid for it a little bit for our expertise, because we do have expertise in our lived experience and, whatever. And so that was her goal, was to find a way to employ people that are underemployed, typically, and utilize their experience. And so that's how she went forward with this idea. So, and we just had a photo shoot the other day. It was great.
Scott, we have the hard job, sir. Getting us back on top.
Hello? I used to work at Google, and before they fired me for looking up Donald Trump at work, and I got walked out by a black woman in a BLM t-shirt, they had a cohort of black females working in programming, and all the Asian software developers had to interact with them and help them and get them included in the projects. But unfortunately, a lot of those females had attitude problems, and the software developers from India didn't like communicating with them. So what we have here is a failure to communicate because one group of highly intelligent, actually, credentialed individuals have to sit there and cower before a black woman who can't even speak the language and has no technical capabilities in the subject matter, so it wastes everybody's fucking time. How do you like them apples? Hello?
Black women that graduated from Northwestern or University of Chicago or University of Indiana are completely unqualified.
I mean, I can't take him serious. So.
I like them fucking apples.
When you go to solve a problem in programming, and some people look at the problem in one way, and some people look at it in an alternate way because they have experienced the world differently, you can come up with 1 + 1 can produce a solution that's equal to 3, or 2 + 2 is equal to 5, and many times that create very or unique solutions that you might not otherwise come up with.
Stan, is Trump now officially a lame duck?
I don't think Trump is officially a lame duck because the people around him and the GOP is enabling him to do things that I think are not beneficial for the country as a whole.
I agree totally.
that's not to say that some of the things that he does are definitely beneficial. I think that many of the things he is doing could be done in a way that got people to rally around him instead of making it a fight of us versus them. Well, I guess that subject matter, scared people from the room. I suspect you guys have previously talked about that, so I might be covering subject matter you already covered. And Andrew, I do recall a couple years ago you and I had some very interesting conversations. I haven't had the chance to interface with you in quite some time. I don't know how long.
You know,
Can you refresh my memory?
No, I can't. But I know we've had conversations.
you know, gentlemen, there's something they don't teach you in undergrad or in junior high or high school, and that's politics. Meaning that they can't actually tell you the situation because it would be inappropriate. Meaning that even at the university or at the high school or the junior high, there's a power struggle happening amongst the teachers, the faculty, etc. And there's like a vying for the superintendent position or for the principal. So it's like your whole life is like this. That's what I'm saying. This DEI hiring bullshit. It doesn't take into account competitiveness and politics. Like that's the one thing that we can't seem to get rid of. This hierarchical structure of supremacy and adjusted gross income for people who might not be even qualified for it, but they got it because they were politically savvy within the organization. So there's so many variables that go into an individual's success that can't be accounted for by doing, affirmative action hiring. Because that in itself is the actuality of the political game without any kind of experience. It's so dishonest. And because it's unnatural, it's forcing an unnatural equation into what should be a natural equation. Do you see what I'm saying? Hello?
And who do you suggest should always be hired? The person with the right test scores? The test scores and GPA determines who's the best person. The person that played on college football? Person that's taller?
Well, see, most people, if you're in the government and you don't have a business to worry about actually turning a fucking profit and you just tax everybody and eat away like a parasite, what you really want to do is hire nice people who aren't going to challenge you in any significant way. But if you're running, let's say, a law firm and you want to bring on a partner and you expect that fucking guy to go out there and bring in business, or if you're a CPA, you expect that auditor to go out there and get you clients, that's work. That's called actual work. But when you work at the trough of government and you're just a parasite, and then you hire DEI individuals for the sake of social justice, equity, worrying, as if like you're trying to right some kind of horrific wrong in the universe, and it's all a scam, it's all a fraud, because it's all based off of taxpayer dollars, and all taxation is theft. I am complete.
So you're telling me when I've run companies in the past and I hired women and I hired people that had different skin color than me, I was only doing it because I didn't want to hire the best people or the people that I thought were best for the company, but instead I was doing it for the government.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you hired those people because they were great candidates, well, that's why you hired them. But in a government setting where they have hiring quotas or major banks, etc., this is what my argument against people in this app were saying. Major corporations are very conservative. And I was like, are you fucking crazy? They're extremely woke, liberal elitists that run these companies and do DEI hiring all the time for the sake of doing DEI hiring because they believe they're righting some wrong in society. And what they're really doing is it's a scam and it's a fraud and it's illegal.
Well, we can each have our own opinions.
Only doing it because.
Isn't that amazing that we have our own opinions, but I actually have facts in my opinion? You just have opinions about opinions and more opinions about opinions. Mine are actual detailed, accurate analysis. That's what we call facts.
Oh, that's right.
Isn't it great? Because I ask people on this app all the time, what's the difference between a fact and an opinion? Most people have opinions about facts, but they can't actually describe to me what a fact is. And then when I ask them about what an opinion is, their opinion is insufficient about what an opinion is. See, the real definition of DEI is did not earn it. Did not earn it. And again, these positions, the true definition of a DEI hire is an administrative government bureaucratic position. That's the dream job of everybody, where you can get paid $100,000 plus a year to essentially be a communicator, to respond to emails and click buttons, but have no technical capability whatsoever to do anything other than be a chatterbox. Thus, you are a bureaucratic DEI hire. Congratulations, your black femininity earned it. Hello? Is this thing still on? I think Scott passed out. He's dreaming of his former glory days leading the faithful and then forgiving them for all their sins. What a rush that must have been. You did what? Well, God absolves you. Don't worry about it. I can personally absolve you of your sins, and we can all feel great together in the absolution of your horrific decision-making and behavior. Oy vey, what have you done? Stan, let me ask you a question because we have so many listeners in the room right now. If you were the president or the prime minister of Canada, what would your administration hope to achieve? What would your top 3 goals be?
To make the long-term life of the residents of your country better. Quality of life.
Just long-term, not short-term or mid-term?
I'm one that is more focused on long-term because short-term, long-term helps everyone. Short-term can hurt the long-term.
So you think before Rome fell, before the barbarians invaded, do you think the senators were still talking about the long-term goals and outcomes of the empire? What do you think? Do you think maybe they should have focused on the short term as opposed to the long term before they got invaded and they were all murdered and enslaved?
I don't want to compare the current situation with Rome. The Romans was different than the situation right now.
Really? How so? Don't have an answer for your opinion, eh? I understand. Most people still think that 2026 is any different than the year 26, but the truth is the same law applies. It's called the law of nature. If you fuck around with it, you're gonna find out. Hello?
Look, 2026 is completely different than 26, and it's we've learned a lot more. The way we think, the science, what we know about the world is completely different than what people knew in 26, and for that point, different than what we knew in 1986 and 1996.
Do you think a transsexual today is any different than a transsexual in the year 26? A gay person today, are they any different than a gay person in the year 26? Is a black slave complaining about disproportionate rights and not getting, it's amazing when I look at a yearbook, Stan, from 1920 to 1940, 1950, you look at the classrooms in these yearbooks, oh my God, it's all white, not one black person. Then you look at a black yearbook from a different part of the city and it's all black people. So there was this massive segregation which still persists today. And you know what? That's called natural. Because birds of a feather flock together. And you can't force what's unnatural. It never works out. It's all artificial. It's all propaganda. It's all political.
Society advances and we learn more in science, as we learn more in social studies, as we learn more in economics, we find out that the way things existed 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, might not be the right way. And I think the way we think about diversity now has evolved over the last 100 years. And I would like to think that most of us, or many of us, have taken the chance to let our minds evolve with the advancement in education, and to look at the world differently than they did in the 1920s.
You know what's interesting is when I ask people, we've had such an incredible technological innovation and advancement in science and semiconductors, but the utility, what do we really use this new technology for? Guess what we use it for? Communication. That's what all major advancements in technology give us. Communication capabilities, unlike ever before. So, Clubhouse is an innovation, but Stan, look at the people that use it. They're so brain rotted out, they can't even use it productively. Instead of creating businesses and being creative, people tear each other down, scream at each other, use profanity, vulgarity, racism, insane statements of incredible hatred and evil. You hear the worst things from people on this app constantly because they're mentally fucking deranged. They're low IQ, brain rotted out, and they're pathetic. It's sickening. The culture. The people who use this app are detestable. They should be flogged publicly for what they say on this app. Hello?
This app allows people to express their views and sometimes test out their views, sometimes to use their views to aggravate others. And each room has, or different people have their different intentions and influence rooms differently.
Well, see, the thing is, I guess if you don't like America, you know what you can do? You can just leave America. Not many complainers in America really realize this, but you could just leave. I heard a guy today at the hospital screaming at everybody saying, fuck you all fucking suck, I'm dying of lung cancer and none of you can help me, fuck you all, nobody helps me. He says, I'm going to Mexico, fuck this place. That's what he said today. I was like, holy shit. He's letting everybody know what he's thinking. He needs to come on Clubhouse. Hello?
In order to make society better, it's not unreasonable to point out areas that one thinks are working well, but also places and concepts and ideas that could work better. I don't think it's unreasonable also to point out behavior that goes against norms and behavior that isn't beneficial to having everybody feel inclusive in society. When your objective is to make enemies or to treat your people that don't view the same way as you as enemies and try to segregate society, I think it's very fair to critique people that are using the 1920s playbook.
Yeah. Well, this country was not founded on equality. This country was founded on discrimination, meaning that we want the best. We want what's beautiful. We want what's good, not what's wrong, not what's illegal, not what's evil, not what's low IQ. And basically the entire left, liberal, woke, progressive movement is a scam because the country's broke completely and insolvent. So until they actually address the financial crisis, what they're really doing is filibustering hypnosis. It's all filibuster hypnosis, which solves nothing. It just creates divide and dopamine for both sides of the spectrum. I am complete.
Yeah, so why does the deficit increase more under the GOP typically than it does under Democrats?
Your question is, why does the GOP increase the deficits more than the Democrats?
Yeah. Look at the facts.
Okay, but to think that the Democrats would somehow benevolently, spend less because they're doing the right thing. What I'm trying to say is, I think we should actually stop America, meaning we should go out of business and declare bankruptcy and start over, and flood the country with international investment, and basically stop the monthly cycle and the quarterly and annual budgets. I think that's truly if Donald Trump could somehow do that, which he can't just stop everybody's experience. But if we were to actually look at the founding fathers in our history, it would be the actual intelligent conclusion to the situation, which is to actually completely file federal national bankruptcy and maybe even rename the country and call this first, just in the same way like Napoleon did it, just start over an entire new empire and dissolve the old one, because the old one is totally leaking and the fraud is so rampant and the criminality is so rampant and the scams and schemes are so rampant that to continue to lose $500 billion a year to fraud is utter insanity. And the Medicare industry with the doctors and the insurance corps, they're the biggest ruthless profiteers of nothing because they actually don't do anything. They just keep getting their VIG every single month. It's a scam. It's a fraud on the American populace. And if the voter actually knew how bad they're getting fucked and how much worse they're gonna get fucked, they would immediately get out of the brothel and stop engaging with the whores that are ruining their lives, because the property tax scam is so bad that you can't retire. You actually, even into your retirement, if you didn't really exceed, your ROI and your savings, you are a slave to your state and to your federal government. And they will just dissolve all your retained earnings and continue to outspend you. And it's that bad. We're going to go from an individual per capita debt of 450,000 individually per American. That's not even taxpayer. There's only 1 out of 3 pay taxes. So the country is. I just think we should bite the bullet, declare bankruptcy, declare insolvency, and actually liquidate assets and secure the border, rearm our own population, and completely withdraw all foreign U.S. military personnel and weaponry from around the world and bring it back to our East Coast and West Coast, South perimeter, and definitely the Canadian border. I do not trust Canadians, and I think we should actually prepare for an inevitable future war with Canada. Some people don't think it's possible, but it's like the same thing like driving your car. You're gonna get in an accident closest to your house statistically. Therefore, the eventual war will come with Canada because there will be a Canadian rogue government, and there will be a rogue U.S. government that will eventually engage each other, probably in a soft war. We'll have to expand the wars, and expanding the war close to home is, obviously the natural choice. I think Toronto should be our first target personally to actually send, special forces in and take over the government in Toronto and actually annex Toronto into the United States. And that's my opinion. Take over the banks, take over the energy, take over everything. Hello?
Yeah. You do realize that right now people underpay their taxes to the tune of about close to $1 trillion a year. So a lot of our deficit, not exclusively, but a lot of our deficit is the accumulated amount of people not paying or underpaying their taxes for many years and the interest associated with that. So if we somehow could go and claw that back, it would take care of a substantial portion of our deficit. And if we got rid of all the loopholes for the top, let's say 3%, we'd also be able to reduce a substantial portion of the debt.
If they wanted to automate tax collection, they totally could.
That doesn't work for the people that are not paying their right amount.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is if they were to re-engineer the taxation system, they could force it annually starting within just 30 days. And they could raise the taxation.
It's too complex for...
Too complex?
For the top...
Too complex? Nothing's too complex. We have AI software. Haven't you heard of AI? AI can easily, whip this software up within just days. Don't you have any faith in the technology and the science to get that $1 trillion that you claim people are screwing the government on? You got no vision, brother. You got no balls, apparently. You're just a complainer.
Yep. Okay.
Have you been complaining your whole life? Because earlier you said it's people's right to complain. And I'm not saying it's not people's right to complain, but how long have you been a complainer instead of a visionary?
Yes.
You agree.
There's no doubt.
You lack creativity and imagination, that's all. We can fix you, Stan. It's not too late. We can bring you into our body shop and upgrade your model.
I'm sure that I have creativity. I'm sure that I've come up with unique ideas in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also very cognizant that I've seen things that could be done better,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not afraid to point those out. Obviously, I'm wearing my glasses, and I might see things differently than those that wear a different set of glasses.
Stan, do you suffer from any disabilities like autism, Down syndrome, mental retardation? Something that, we wouldn't rapidly know from your skier's, helmet and goggles. Are you dealing with any kind of physical or mental impairment?
And that's a good question for you.
No, I asked you first, Stan. If you don't want to answer, I understand. It's your choice.
I definitely try to wear a helmet so that I don't crash into things.
Well, Stan, this conversation has been fascinating. Scott, our biracial or triracial PhD preacher for Jesus, I think is fast asleep counting his Z's.
Man, this guy.
Scott's exhaustive schedule of using Clubhouse nonstop has finally caught up with him. Gary Baumgarten's room must have drained him of all his dopamine today. He was claiming that America is going fascist. Whether it's the left or the right, he's not sure of, but he's sure it's fascism.
It's finally.
Who's he?
Oh, Scott is this bisexual triracial who lives in Philadelphia. He uses Clubhouse all the time to basically make pseudo-intellectual statements about political affairs. He thinks he's quite an academic, and he hosts a podcast where he interviews people, and they talk about books and stuff. He thinks he's so smart, he knows everything.
I doubt that is the case. He seems to be quite level-headed.
That's what appears on the outside, but looks can be deceiving, as we all know. For example, he's asleep right now.
He sounds quite level-headed.
Exactly, he sounds level-headed. The truth is he's a woke social justice warrior DEI replicant who's never had an original thought in his life. He's just been programmed by a Democrat blob.
Okay. Oh my. Is that true, Peter?
Well, nobody else can come up to the stage, and all these people keep coming in, and they're enjoying the conversation that you and I keep having. But pretty soon, I think I'm just going to start reading Ayn Rand and jerk off. Have you ever read Ayn Rand at the same time and masturbated?
I'm sorry, that's not a subject matter that I delve into.
Is it because you don't want to come to the truth, or you do want to come to the truth?
I'm married.
Well, Ayn Rand doesn't discriminate. She's a ruthless, independent thinker that believes in self-preservation.
Oh, well, great for her.
I got T-boned. It wasn't even my fault, and insurance still tried to hand me this tiny little offer like I would just...
And I never. Behold,
Well,
the rituals of the old time.
we're getting close to estimating $1 trillion in CapEx spend for the hyperscalers for next year.
Hyperscalers? What is that?
Hyperscaler?
Yeah, you said the word. What is it? Do I need to Google it? Hello?
Yeah, the hyperscalers are perhaps one. If you're invested in the stock market, hyperscalers are perhaps the most important word to know.
Hyperscaling. I mean, I can deduce what I think it means, but... Oh, I guess... Is there a hyperscaling functionality within Clubhouse yet?
I'm sure that Clubhouse uses the hyperscalers in some way or another.
And who are these hyperscalers?
The people that offer AWS and Azure and similar products.
Oh, I see. They're using the cloud to hyperscale. So they're technically cloud hyperscalers. How do we use the cloud right now?
They're using
well, if you believe in the RAIN conspiracy theory for Iran, it's believe that someone's seeding the clouds to keep it from raining there.
So do you prefer the word chemtrails or contrails?
I have no opinion.
Because I see a lot of contrails, and then I ask some people, is that a contrail? And they say, no, it's my opinion that it is a chemtrail. And I say, it looks like a contrail to me. And they say, no, that's definitely a chemtrail. And I say, you certain, look up there. Look at the waviness of the mist that plane is spraying out. I think that is a contrail. And they say, no, that's a chemtrail. And I say, no, it looks to me like a contrail. And then they always say back to me, no, that's definitely a chemtrail. You can tell from the plane and the angle of the plane and the speed and the height. And they say, well, I'm certain that's a contrail. And they go, no, that's a chemtrail. We can never seem to agree on the difference between chemtrails and contrails. We seem to have to disagree on our opinions.
Okay.
Well, you know what the word okay spells backwards? KO. That means knocked out. And I think this conversation has knocked me out. I think I am preparing to take my psychiatric medication, jerk off, and go to sleep.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us. It was quite important that we hear it.
You know, have you ever taken a psychiatric medication?
No.
Have you ever taken a COVID-19 vaccine?
That's for each their own on that.
Oh, you're going to HIPAA on that one. Well, have you taken a booster? Have you been boosted? Once?
I don't know if I've been boosted.
Twice? Thrice?
I
4 times boosted?
Perhaps I had some vaccine that needed to be boosted when I was a kid. I don't know.
Oh, did you get the COVID-19 vaccine with your wife? Dually at the same time, simultaneous? Did you look each other in the eyes and say, I love you? We're in this together, babe. We're in it together, babe. The love seat. Vaccinated at the same time. Doctor, can we get the COVID-19 vaccine at the same time, my wife and I? So romantic. Stan, how many relationships do you think were broken up because the COVID-19 vaccine divided them, disunited their love affair?
I don't know. I would imagine that it would be similar to being from different sides, different political sides.
Isn't that fascinating? The vaccine seems to be political. Huh. It's almost like everything's political. Even vaccines for the COVID-19 vaccine that came out of the Wuhan virus laboratory. Do you think it came out of Wuhan?
Sides.
Well, it definitely came out of the town of Wuhan. If it came from the laboratory or if it came from a wild animal, is not my place to be able to make a comment on. I'm not well versed on that.
God, to me, it's just so amazing that the vaccinated, they still think that the virus came out of like maybe an animal out of Wuhan and somehow miraculously traveled all around the world to every fucking continent and the whole fucking planet. That is one hell of a bat or a dog or a monkey or snarkle or whatever kind of imaginary creature that lives in your delusional mind. So, in conclusion, what we have learned here, Stan, you're Canadian, right?
No, I'm not Canadian.
You're American?
It was Andrew that was Canadian.
Oh, so you're from Minnesota then?
No, I'm not from Minnesota.
Are you from Montana? Wyoming?
No, I'm not from Montana.
Are you from Vermont?
I am not from Vermont.
Are you from Delaware?
I'm not from Delaware.
Are you from Maine?